guys, and welcome to the Marigold Standard, your weekly audio source of all things Dream Star Fighting Marigold. I'm your host, Rob Goodwin, and I'm joined, as I am always joined, by Mr. Matt Turner. Matt Turner, I've heard Amber might be entering a new apple pie eating competition, and I am a little bit concerned that we are going to have to start a riot to make sure that justice is served.
Yeah, my wife is a phenomenal cook and a phenomenal baker, as you know firsthand, one Mr. Rob Goodwin. But last night we were sitting at the dinner table, and she was telling me that for Halloween, for the church, they are doing they're helping out with another festival right around our house here. She said there's an apple pie baking contest, and I think I'm going to enter it. I was like, oh, okay. And then she told me that the price values, like for the winnings, your award winnings, was double the amount that the ones that she enters in the summertime. Now, last year she took third. This year she took fifth. Again, a bunch of BS. Another story for another day. But she told me, she's like, I think, I said, well, you'll there's a good chance that you'll probably win it. So we got done with dinner, and I went back up to the room I'm sitting in right now, the podcast room, to finish the Korakuen show from Marigold, which we're talking about later. And then she came up with these apple tuchers, which are basically small versions of apple pie, and a large coffee for me, because it was Monday, and I'm always dragging a little bit on Monday because my Sundays are nonstop. So I'm always hurting, a little bit tired on Monday. So the sweetheart that she is was like, this is kind of what it's going to taste like. And I made you a pumpkin coffee while I was watching some fantastic wrestling from Marigold. So what a sweetheart of a wife that she is. And yes, I did give her a little pep talk when you were texting back and forth last night of how to go about it, and if I need to be throwing some Mirai left-handed lariats to make sure that, she takes home the first prize. I definitely will. But brother, all things considered, I'm doing really well. Before we get into how you're doing, because I'm interested to hear how you're doing and how the ribs are doing, and I know that I believe you were back to work this week. Do want to get a little bit serious for a moment. We obviously don't like to get too serious on this podcast because we're all about having fun and having everybody enjoy their day. But real quick, I just want to say our thoughts and prayers are with everybody that are involved in these terrible hurricanes that were getting down south, especially my friends down in Florida. There was one last week, and they hit from Florida all the way up to the East Coast, I think almost to like the Maryland way. And it's all over the news with homes and towns just being washed away. And I believe literally as we are recording this podcast, is another one that's supposed to hit the Tampa Bay area pretty well. So again, thoughts and prayers to everybody there. Please be safe. If you have not evacuated, just I guess hunker down. I talked to a friend of the show and the Io Shirai of this of our Freedom, one Karen Peterson, and she said that she's all boarded up. She's hurricane ready. She's got knitting going on with her mom. And if she's listening to this podcast, Karen, I hope that myself and Rob, with our ridiculousness, can provide you a little bit of entertainment as you are in the midst of literally of the eye of the storm. So again, thoughts and prayers to everybody down south.
Yeah, she's an undefeated champion, Mother Nature. Obviously, we don't tend to get storms of that magnitude here in the UK, and it is always frightening turning on the news and seeing, obviously I know, is it North Dakota? I want to say it's either North Dakota or North Carolina has been hit horrendously badly.
North Carolina. Yeah, North Carolina.
God.
The Dakotas are out west, where the Carolinas are. They're down south. They're below me, but above Florida. My sister lives in North Carolina, so I always talk to my sister once or twice a week, but it seems like I was texting her almost every day for the last week and a half. And then she just said that they got a ton of rain. They lost power for a little bit. Fortunately, they have a generator there, and they were A-okay. But yeah, my sister wasn't too far away from the damage that happened over there. But fortunately, she was okay.
Good. And obviously, I believe it's Hurricane Milton is heading for Florida. So just echoing Matt's sentiments. Please make sure you're safe. Make sure you are boarded up. And obviously, we all our good wishes and good thoughts are with you. But yes, in terms of me, I can't really complain, having just said about what people are going through in the south of America. But yeah, the ribs are slowly but surely mending. Still struggling to lift things. And things like that. The sleep is moderately better. And by moderately, I mean that I am getting 3.5 hours rather than 2 hours sleep a night, which is always good. But yeah, I'm slowly getting there. I believe I'm back in work on Thursday, so that'll be nice to break up the monotony of the day. Though I must admit, if I was to choose a time to break my ribs, I think when the Dream Star was finishing and this slew of shows between Marigold and Stardom was certainly the best time to do it. I'd argue, Matt.
I love how you put a positive spin on you you getting hurt, my man. You getting injured. You put a positive spin on it. That's what we love here on the Marigold Standard is just the positivity from myself and you. But yes, I'm glad that you're feeling a little bit better. I knew you said you weren't sleeping much. I didn't know that you were doing between 2 to 3 hours, which makes sense why you're texting me between 8 and 9 o'clock at night my time, which means it's between 1 and 2 your time. Like, why is he texting me at 8:30 or 9 o'clock? I'm like, did he accidentally like send that to me even though we were having a conversation? So I almost like felt bad texting you back. I'm like, he should be asleep. And it was kind of funny because I go to bed really, really early because I'm up early because, again, that's the only time I can get my workouts in is really early in the morning. So as you're texting me at like 9 o'clock my time and you're up, and again, you're 5 hours ahead of me, I'm literally minutes away of going to bed myself, which I thought is,
Wild.
which Amber really, 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 she finds it's really hilarious. She's like, it's 9 o'clock. Like, you're ready to go to bed. He's 5 hours ahead. What's he doing? I'm like, probably updating the website.
I have been updating the website, to be fair. And to
what a
be
soldier,
fair,
folks. What a soldier.
and I think I said on the Stardom cast as well that we are mere days away from me putting out the spreadsheets for the ridiculous amount of spreadsheets when it comes to Stardom, having inputted all 900 and something shows that Stardom have run. It's almost 1,000, but all the results have been now put into a spreadsheet, and you can see all the stats and everything, all the different attendances and things like that. All of that's going to be pinned to the top of the Stardomcast website. The Stardomcast Twitter feed. I've also got the Marigold one as well, which has been considerably easier to do because I haven't got 14 years of history to go through. And it did make me appreciate just how many bloody shows Stardom ran in 2023. As I'm going through and I'm like, oh my God, seriously, I've been going for hours and I'm in March. This is ridiculous. But yes, Marigold 30, I believe 34 shows or 33 shows. So considerably easier to keep on top of that. So yeah, hopefully they will be released. If not tomorrow, then over the weekend at the absolute latest. And hopefully they are just helpful for anyone trying to get into Stardom or trying to get into Marigold or anything like that.
You're doing the Lord's work, sir. You're doing the Lord's work, my friend.
I massively, massively appreciate it. So thank you very much. Let's talk then about a little bit of news. Obviously, we are clear now of the Dream Star Grand Prix, which I think was a huge success. We are now into the Fantastic Adventure Tour, which has been in Osaka on the 5th of October, Saturday, and then, of course, live at Korakuen Hall on Monday the 7th. We're going to be covering both those shows because there was a really quick turnaround from Wrestle Universe this week. I believe the show aired on the 5th, and it was on Wrestle Universe by the 6th. So really, really quick. We've just got a couple of bits of news I want to run through, 2 in relation to Stardom and 1 in relation to Marigold. The Marigold one I'm really, really happy about, and you'll see why very, very shortly. But we'll get into all of this now. The first that we're going to talk about is our good old friend Stardom Wrestlers Wrestling Elsewhere. Let's start with Mina Shirakawa. We've talked, obviously, over the last couple of weeks about Mina and Azumi both taking part on the Rev Pro Global Wars UK show on October the 19th in Doncaster, UK, and Royal Quest for the following day, October 20th, in Crystal Palace, London. At that time, Azumi was announced to be having a special singles match with Kanji. Mina Shirakawa's first defense of her undisputed British Women's Championship hadn't been confirmed at that point. However, that has been confirmed today, and it's going to be against Lizzie Evo, stalwart of the English indie scene. It won't be her first attempt at the belt. She challenged Giselle Shaw back in 2021 for the belts. That's her only attempt prior for the belts. But interestingly enough, and this was something that I did find out whilst I was going through and doing all the Stardom stats, Evo isn't a stranger to Stardom at all. In fact, she wrestled 3 dates for the company back in 2016 as Lizzie Styles. So she is used to the Joshi style, even if it was a while ago. So that is going to be live on RevProOnDemand.com. Mina Shirakawa versus Lizzie Evo for the undisputed British Women's Championship. I'm looking forward to that match. Should be a good match.
Yeah, again, you're in the ring with Azumi, and again, Azumi wrestling outside of the company, outside of Japan, something really interesting for her and Mina Shirakawa as well. We talk about this almost every week on the Stardom cast. This is something that is kind of a little bit newer to Stardom over this past year, or this new regime, if you will, Rob. Good, bad, or indifferent. To me, I think it's been really good and really beneficial to Stardom that these wrestlers are wrestling outside of Stardom. Again, we saw them over in Philly for Philly Mania. Obviously, Stardom ran their own show, and then we saw some of these wrestlers, Sherry on GCW. We saw the Ring of Honor six women tag match with Sai Kamatani, with Mina, with May Sarah, Micah, and so on. And so on and so forth. And now we're getting them, we've seen them wrestle in Sendai Girls. It seems like almost like once a month or once every 6 weeks, we have a Stardom wrestler wrestling over in Sendai Girls. But not only they're wrestling outside the company, they're wrestling outside the country to the UK. So you're going to get some fans that have never seen Mina or Azumi wrestle live before, that I think they're going to be completely blown away, just by the charisma that is Mina Shirakawa and how she builds up her psychology. And then Azumi, I always say, in my opinion, Azumi's the most talented wrestler in all of wrestling, regardless of country, regardless of gender, regardless of company. She's just a one of one. She's something completely different. I think that the fans over there in your neck of the woods, my man, over there in the UK, are going to be absolutely blown away by the high-speed bomb girl. So I think that is two smart wrestlers, are two wrestlers that will really catch the eye of somebody that may have never seen Stardom before. And I think that Stardom is going to be able to keep building up their fan base outside of Japan. And there's going to be a lot more fans over there in England coming off the show, because they're going to be blown away by what they're seeing with Mina Shirakawa and Azumi.
Speaking of wrestlers wrestling elsewhere, as you might remember, Sai Kamatani won the Catch the Wave tournament, and as a result, she has a shot at the Regina the Wave Championship. That has been confirmed for Pro Wrestling Wave's Korakuen Hall show, the Prime Wave. It's going to be on the 4th of November. It's a Monday, Korakuen Hall, and it's going to be Saya Kamatani challenging for the Regina the Wave tournament, for the championship, oh my god, against the champion Yuki Miyazaki. Also announced on the card, we have got Saki and Risera challenging for the tag titles, and topical, but Dump Matsumoto has also been announced for the card, Matt. We can't seem to get away from the Queen of Villains at the moment.
No, good on her. Getting another bite at the apple, getting another payday. And we'll talk about it more on the Stardom cast. And we knew she was going to be putting on the performance that she did, some 30, 35 years ago. And a lot of it has to do with the abuse on her body. And what was that abuse on her body from? From pro wrestling, from entertaining us as fans. So it's good for her going out there. And again, it's not a main event spot. She's not going out there and beating Mayu for the IWGP Women's Championship. But at the same time, it's a good nostalgia act for the fans to go and see her again. And again, it's the fact that she's going to go out there and get another payday, and rightfully earned. That is something that she earned through her decades and decades of abusing her body for our entertainment. So that's really cool. And it's going to be interesting to see if that draws tickets. It looked like it helped draw tickets in Nagoya. Again, we'll talk about that when we talk about the Stardom cast this week. But going back to your main event match with Sai Kamatani challenging for the Arena del Wave Championship. Correct me if I'm wrong, partner, but wasn't only a handful of months ago that belt was held by Hikaru Shida Could have sworn I saw her come on AWTV with that belt, and it's kind of making me wonder if she was still champion, what a Shida versus Sai Kamatani match would look like. I think I know what it looked like. It would look like it'd be all sorts of awesome. So yeah, that's going to be something that I'm going to have to check out. My guess is very much like the Catch the Wave matches. These matches will probably be up on Stardom World within a week or two. They did a good job of getting those matches on Stardom World, the Ron Yagami match and then the Sai Kamatani matches pretty quickly. So hopefully that Sai Kamatani, her Catch the Wave Championship match is up on Stardom World pretty soon, and I imagine that it would be.
Yeah, if the tournament matches are anything to go by, and the fact that we've had May Sayura's Pro Wrestling Diana match uploaded. We've had the Sendai Girls stuff uploaded as well. I can't see why this wouldn't be uploaded to Stardom World as well. Unfortunately, I don't actually know a great deal about Yuki Miyazaki. She's held the belt since Christmas Eve 2023. You're absolutely right, Matt. Hikaru Shida held it between 2022 and 2023. She lost it on the 1st of October 2023, almost a year to the day, when she lost it to Veni, who only held it for 84 days. So should be a great match from the very, very, very little I know about Yuki Miyazaki. But Saya Kamatani is on, I'd say the run of a lifetime, but obviously, the white belt run was something else, but I think she's rejuvenated in this heel guise, which never ceases to amaze me. But that's something that I'm very much looking forward to, and it'll be interesting to see if she's the one to end the Miyazaki reign. It currently stands at 289 days as we record. It'll be interesting to see if she brings that title over to Stardom. I'll be very intrigued to see if that's the case. Now, Matt, we're going to play a little game. Because Marigold announced today that the Mask Fiesta is coming back. So Stardom used to run a show every year around Halloween in Shinkiba First Ring called the Mask Fiesta. And basically, wrestlers would come in wearing masks and would be wrestling under different names. And it was just a really fun sort of show. It wasn't meant to be taken seriously, and it was just generally a very, very good time. Now, when Stardom ran it, I believe it was a double shot. So you'd got an afternoon show at Shinkiba and then an evening show at Shinkiba. I believe, and I could be wrong because I haven't got the dates right in front of me, that this is the same for Marigold. So they've announced that the Mask Fiesta will be on October 27th, which is also the day that they last ran it in Stardom, which was the 27th of October 2019. All members will appear wearing original masks as original characters for one night only, and they've posted a picture. We have Mai Sakurai, Mirai, Kazuna Tanaka, and Victoria Yuzuki all wearing their brand new masks. So I'm looking forward to that, something a little bit different. And the fact that they brought this back, I always enjoyed the Mask Fiesta shows whenever I go back and watch it, because the Stardom wrestlers are able to basically just relax and do something a little less stressful. I know that wrestling is stressful, but you know what I mean. It's sort of something different, sort of something more relaxed and chilled, and they can interact more with the crowd and they can try things and things like that. So I'm really looking forward to that. However, we're going to play a little game, Matt, because as I mentioned, the last time that a Mask Fiesta show was run was by Stardom, the 27th of October 2019. So it's going to be 5 years to the day since the last Mask Fiesta, which makes me feel incredibly old when I say that that was 5 years ago. It only feels like a couple of years ago. But we're going to play a game of who is this person, or more casually, who's under the mask. So I'm going to give you a couple of names, and I want you to tell me what Stardom wrestler it was under that mask or wrestling under that name. Now, I'm going to start really easy. Okay. Matt, who is this? Tam Chika.
Oh, the one and only, walking the Tam Road.
Indeed.
A World of Stardom champion, Tam Nakano.
It is
one
indeed.
For one.
Yeah,
all right.
absolutely.
1 for 1. Woo-hoo. All right. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to get a hold of that. Quit while you're ahead, buddy. Wait till you see me in Vegas, buddy, because I'll put $20 in a machine. If I win $2, I'm walking out. I am the definition of quitting while I'm ahead.
That's fine, mate. That's absolutely fine. Because we have discussed what we're going to do. We're going to bet, put $10 down, it'll get eaten up straight away. And I'm like, nah, I'm done now. Done now.
Let's go back to the room. Let's go back to the room and drink.
Absolutely. Always. It's about 40 degrees at night. We'll just sit by the pool. Obviously, this is going to get a bit harder now, Matt. I hope you're ready.
I'm ready.
Black Starlight Kid.
Oh, that's got to be Kyo Yonayama. Not my final answer. I'm going to say Starlight Kid. Now, and I do remember from doing my research for my Azumi versus Starlight Kid rivalry review, which is exclusive for all of our Patreon listeners, that was one of the matches of some of the research I did. That obviously she would adopt that about 2 years later when she would complete her heel turn. So that, sir, would be Starlight Kid. Correct me if I'm, and that would be the final answer. And I don't even need to phone a friend on that one.
You're a brave man, but yes, your gamble has paid off. It is Black Starlight Kid as Starlight Kid. Along that same theme, Mini Iotika.
Oh, Zumi.
Correct. Well done. You're 3 for 3, man. Look at you go. Get a little bit more hard now. Black Fuzzy Peach.
Momo Watanabe?
Correct. Look at you, 4 for 4.
I only knew that because of the Momo is a peach, and we met Momo Kogo. The hand signal she'd everybody do was the peach because peach means her name. And I remember in her perfect English, she told me that.
Yeah, I remember. And don't forget, of course, Momo Watanabe's nickname at the moment, Black Peach. Green Saya.
You know what? Actually, this could be a little tricky.
I know.
Because, oh, wait a minute. Because it's 2019, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say it's either Kamatani or Ida, but I'm trying to think when Kamatani debuted. I'm going to go with Saya Ida.
It's your first wrong answer. You should have followed your instinct. It's Saya Kamatani.
It went with Kamatani. I think she was a rookie, but I wasn't sure if she took part of the Mask Fiesta because I think she debuted in 2019.
She did. She did debut in 2019. I believe her and Sayuri. I think Sayuri debuted in 2018. I believe.
Yep. Yeah, I think she's got about a year on her, so that's why I thought maybe that's my thought process was that because Saya Kamatani was only wrestling a handful of months, if she was partaking in the Mass Fiesta, but that's why I went with. That was my reasoning behind Saida. However, Mr. Goen, my reasoning was wrong.
Well, we've said that we're both wrong because Saida actually debuted in January 2019, so right at the start of 2019. Death Pumpkin.
That's got to be Kyo Yonayama.
Correct, it is indeed. Right, we're going to go for some hard ones now. Let's go. Fantastic Girl.
I mean, it's got to be Mayu Iwatani, right? She's fantastic. That would be my reasoning behind that one.
Incredible. Absolutely correct. Well done. Yes, it is.
Oh, what a shot in the dark. Not only that, but like Mayu put the mask on and Ross is like, what does your name want to be? You have 2 minutes. And she's like, Fantastic Girl. I'm like, okay, see you out there, kid.
I'm sure her name before this, when she's done previous ones, was Mayu Chika. So, it's...
It's getting better.
Exactly.
It's got a little more creative. It went from a 0 to a 0.5.
Exactly. Let's do Masked Pretty Wan-chan.
I would say that would be Tam, but did Tam wrestle twice on the show?
She did not wrestle twice, no.
Would this be Micah?
9/20/19.
Oh, what is it?
Konami.
Oh.
I'd have never ever got that. We'll do 2 more and then we'll get on with our review. Masked Gas Mask.
I figured that would be Konami, but Hakamura?
Correct. Well done. And your final one, La Gatita.
Just because I didn't mention her, and anytime I can mention this name on the podcast, it brings a smile to my face. Arisa Hoshinki.
No, Arisa Hoshiki was UDN for presumably is it Unlimited Dream Navigator? Is that her band? No, she wrestled under UDN. It was Saki Kashima as La Gatita.
Oh.
There you go.
Oh, there you go.
There you go,
The
ladies and
death
gentlemen.
match queen yourself, Saki Kashima.
And we will revisit Who's Under the Mask, ready for the 2024 version, which is being brought back by Marigold. Very, very happy to see this back, and I can't wait to do the review with you, Matt. Let's move on to the shows themselves. Two fantastic adventures Marigold have undertaken this weekend. Night one, as I've already mentioned, Saturday the 5th of October, Osaka 176 box. 285 people in attendance, which is the lowest that they've drawn at that venue. The previous lowest being on the Summer Goldshine Tour. 357 was the previous lowest. So a bit of a drop for Marigold, but nevertheless, the results from that show are as follows. We open with a singles match. Kazuna Tanaka defeated the Flying Penguin with a redream in 8 minutes and 42 seconds. A 4-on-1 handicap match. Bozilla defeated Myla Grace, now Ishikawa, Komomo Minami, and Minami Yuki with a powerbomb in 5 minutes and 55 seconds. In a tag team match, the team of Nagisa Nozaki and Chiaki defeated Misa Matsui and Ryo Saito, with Chiaki pinning Ryo Saito with the biggest stalling fisherman suplex I think I've ever seen in 10 minutes and 52 seconds. In your semi-main event singles match, Mai Sakurai defeated Chika Goto, submitting her with the STF in 9 minutes and 32 seconds. And then in your main event, a bumper 6-woman tag team match, Utami Hayashishita Mirai and Victoria Yuzuki versus Miko Aono and Natsumi Shizuki and Kogi Yamare ended in a 30-minute time limit draw. We'll start with the opener then, Matt. Only 5 matches on this card. I don't quite know what I was expecting from a wrestler called Flying Penguin, but it wasn't that they would come out belting their opening theme, but it did set an incredibly relaxed and fun tone for the rest of the show, if nothing else, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is your first match coming off the your Dream Star Finals, and we get the young and super talented Kazuna Tanaka taking on a penguin that supposedly is flying. So, I mean, a really good way to to start the fall in this fantastic adventure tour. I thought this was a solid enough match. It was nice seeing Kazuna Tanaka get not only another win, but another win with their redream. So I really like how we're starting to build that finisher back up, because it is a fantastic move done by just a terrific young wrestler in one Kazuna Tanaka. Yeah, Flying Penguin was somebody that I have never seen before, but somebody that kind of jumps off the page because she's the only wrestler really in this on this show that wrestles in a mask. So something that's completely different. Didn't know what to expect. I enjoyed the match for the almost 9 minutes that it was out there. Kazuna Tanaka looked really good. Flying Penguin has a unique set of offense. Again, she, like you said, she basically kind of sings her own theme coming to the ring, which is, again, something different. You got to do something to stand out, and you never know what might stick, with the audience. So, all in all, though, solid enough stuff. I had it at 3.25 stars.
Yeah, it was all right. I mean, I must admit, the crowd in Osaka, especially for the opening matches, were very, very quiet. And I don't know whether that was just, the miking, or whether it was because, they weren't into the first 2 matches. But either way, very, very quiet crowd. I thought that Flying Penguin was okay. She certainly dominated from a strength point of view, working Tanaka's back and leg. But for me, there was, Tanaka was by far the star of the show, as you would hope, obviously, with her being contracted to Marigold, Flying Penguin's own promotion, 2.5 Joshi Pro Wrestling. It wasn't anything that will blow you away. And there was a couple of little miscommunications, like at the end where Tanaka had to redo the redream. She had to redream. Basically to get the win, but nevertheless, it was fine. It was a serviceable match, and if nothing else, we all got a nice sing-song. The 4-on-1 handicap match. It's a nice touch that Myla, Nao Ishikawa, Manami, and Manami Yuki all came out with matching hairstyles. It felt very much like they were unified because they were undoubtedly staring down the barrel of a massacre, weren't they? I don't think anyone in their right mind thought this was going to go well for this team.
No, and this is exactly when we previewed this last week. We knew exactly what we were going to get, and that's what we got. The one thing I thought was funny, because we've been seeing Myla Grace and Bozilla team up on some of these shows, is that after Bozilla got done really kicking the crap out of everybody, Myla Grace was like, no, I want to be on your team. I want to be on your team. And Bozilla's like, sure, fine, no problem. Picks her up and then just properly body presses her to the floor on top of now Komomo and Yuki. I thought that was a really, really fun spot. And it was like, yeah, you may be on my team from time to time, but the card has me on the opposite side of you. So I'm going to beat you up and I'm going to throw you on top of all your partners. Yeah, ultimately, I mean, it does get a little like a 4-on-1 advantage. And they get a couple near falls on Bozilla, which I didn't expect. I thought this was just going to be a complete like WWF superstar squash in the late 80s, early 90s. So that was something I was like, oh, I didn't see that happening. But ultimately, it is Bozilla that just destroys these 4 young wrestlers. Like, good enough match. When there's these handicap matches and these squashes, I just don't rate them. Everybody played their part. We knew what was going to happen. Ultimately, it's just building Bozilla up for that big championship match that she's having with Sari, which we'll get into when we talk about the Korakuen show here in just a little bit, partner. But again, just out of respect for the wrestlers, I just don't rate squash matches like that.
No, the only real surprise coming out of this is that it took Bozilla that long to beat all of her opponents.
You might be right.
Like
6 minutes for more people. Yeah.
Absolutely. This is basically an Iron Man match. The fact that she was able to stack all 4 of her opponents on top of each other I quite liked. Obviously, we're building Bozilla ahead of this red belt challenge for Sari, so giving her anything less than just a complete squash would have been a booking missed out. But no, she beats all 4 opponents relatively handily. Now Ishikawa, though, and this is a theme that will go over the 2 shows really, really over, and that was the first real reaction I feel that we got from the Osaka crowd, was that for now Ishikawa, when she pumps herself up ready to run at Bozona, just bounces off her like a tennis ball. It's great. Moving on to match 3 on the card. I've just realised just how quickly we are whipping through this show. It's 5 matches long, and I think the show was an hour and a half. Considering this is Rhea Sato's first match back, and again, I completely empathise because she was out with a fractured rib. Not counting Julia's farewell gauntlet, which she was a part of, obviously, but this is her first match back in 2 months. And I felt that you could be forgiven for thinking that there might be a little bit of ring rust there. And actually, Sonny and Stu brought this up at the Korakuen show. But I think she moves remarkably well during this match, and especially during the closing stretch between her and Chiaki when she does the transition into the fight, a beautiful fireman's carry takedown pin, and that very brief cattle mutilation. It showed flashes of something very, very exciting. I know that obviously she's not the total package, obviously because she's not Lex Luger, but
yes,
there you go. Got to get it in. But she's not at all the finished article, but there are flashes to show that there is something exciting there in Rhea Sato.
If she starts using the torture rack, Rob, we're gonna have a whole fun conversation. Or if she's out with another air quotes injury and she starts using a running forearm as a finisher,
comes out with the Lex flexor.
That's it, yeah, like that. And then the mirrors that have when he was the narcissist, the mirrors that shoot the fireworks.
Oh, she should do that anyway. Can you imagine that?
Oh my God, can you imagine? And then if they would put that on a baseball jersey, buddy, that was just money printing money.
That is a
shame
good
on us.
point.
Shame on us. We've been podcasting for 20 minutes and we yet to drop the baseball jerseys. We're slacking, my man. We're slacking. But getting back to your point, I thought Rhea Sato looked terrific here. You would know that she was out as long as she was with the injury that she was, because not only was she working really well, her timing was good, her ring positioning was good, and she took a lot of big bumps towards the end. She took that Chiaki's version of the JP coaster. She took like a 360 backbreaker, and you're absolutely right. That fisherman suplex, she was hanging in the air for quite a bit, and that's a pretty big bump coming down. So considering the fact she's coming off a rib injury, you could have, with a tag match, especially with two heels like Nagisa Nozaki and Chiaki, who are great individually, but I much prefer them as a team. And we made mention with that double count out on the finals of the Dream Star that I hope it's building to a tag title match against Mirai and Mai Sakurai. And this match really proved my theory, at least for me, that it was like these two were really, really on something. They were really cooking as a heel tag team, and hopefully they're building them up for a future championship match against Mirai and Mai Sakurai, because I think that'd be a terrific, terrific match.
Yeah.
But you had been forgiven if they kind of just worked around the injury, but they didn't. Rhea Saito, again, moving really well, taking really big bumps. Misa Matsui, she was terrific as well. Anytime that she would use her speed advantage, the heels would just old school cut her off, which I really, really like that, because you're taking something away from the crowd that they want to see ultimately to get heat on the heels. I thought there's a terrific match. Again, Chiaki and Nozaki work really, really well together as a team. We've even seen them team up quite a bit, and hopefully they get a shot at those Twin Star Tag Team Championships. 3.5 stars for me, my friend.
I would be very, very surprised if they are not the next in line for those belts. I know that obviously, we've got new challenges for the tag belts, and we've also got Nagisa Nozaki going after a different belt. But I imagine that after the challenges for the Twin Star belts, we will get Nagisa Nozaki and Chiaki going for them, because they've been really, really focusing on them as a team. We saw it during the Dream Star final when Chiaki and Nagisa Nozaki were sort of teaming up to attack her. I thought they would be the ones coming out at the end, but obviously with everything out of the press conference and things like that, it was obvious that where we were heading in terms of that. But yeah, capitalizing on a strong start to the match, Chiaki was able to neutralize Rhea's threat, and I think the fact that she was the one that got the pinfall as well, it was very needed. Misa Matsui is absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And obviously we know that the road for Misa Matsui is heading towards that Superfly Championship, a belt we are going to be talking about a little bit later on. And
maybe not, Rob. Did you see that she posted on Twitter that that she was in the gym? She said she's bulking up, and then posted a picture of like 6 donuts. So I don't know, my man. She might be going, which tugs at my heartstrings, because what kills my diet is donuts, beers, and chicken wings. So another story for another day, though, brother.
Yeah, if I was to come up with an album title, that'd be my album title, I think. Yeah,
just the first one.
Yeah, just the first one. Yeah, she looked jacked, to be fair, in the gym photo. But I think as well, like, they brought it up at the Korakuen Hall show about how she was annoyed that she was on so low in almost every single Dream Star show. And it was something that we said as well, wasn't it? The fact that she was often early on the card, yet gave fantastic performances. And if they're bringing that into storyline, which it seems that they are, this sort of, not necessarily a chip on the shoulder storyline, but, you can certainly argue that that's what it looks like. I think that's going to be really good. It gives a little bit of an edge to Misa Matsui, and we saw that at Korakuen Hall with a match against Chiaki. Yeah, but here it was more about reintroduction of Rhea Saito, asserting the dominance of Chiaki and Nagisa Nozaki for obvious reasons, which we'll get to in a moment. Mai Sakurai and Chika Goto. So this was really interesting, because at the press conference for the Korakuen Hall show, Mai Sakurai and Mirai basically called out the Twin Towers for not coming to training as often as they should. Now, it is worth pointing out that Go Chika and Koki Amare have commitments outside of wrestling. I believe they're both Graveyard Idols. So, it's not just because they can't be asked. However, those comments seem to have really lit a fire under Go Chika especially, because there is no pre-match indulgences from her at all in either of these shows. She has a face like thunder as she storms to the ring, and my only thought is that this is a reaction to those comments about her commitment. And actually, it was, again, Stu and Sonny brought up on commentary the fact that Go Chika's stamina is being questioned. And it was questioned by Mirai and Mai Sakurai as well. And I wonder how much of this is a burning desire to prove herself. And again, we've talked about a chip on the shoulder with Misa Matsui. Is it the same for Chika Goto, Matt?
I mean, it's an easy story to tell. Obviously, with Chika Goto and Koki as you just mentioned, have prior commitments outside of wrestling. They're trying to find more than one way of income to be able to support themselves, and good on them. With Mariah and May Sakurai, their main thing is pro wrestling, and you can tell. Again, Mariah, as great as she's been in Stardom the last 2 years, she's better now in Marigold. May Sakurai, I mean, what more can be said that we've already said and gonna say again? She's probably the most improved, either her or Xena, probably the most improved wrestler in all of wrestling here in 2024, with still 3 months left to go of this year. So you can tell that she's clearly putting in the work. So it's an easy story to tell, saying, well, you want the fanfare, you want this, you want that, but you're going to put in the work, but you're not going to put in the work as much as, Mai Sakurai and Mirai. So that's a cool story to kind of really light the fire of Chika Goto and Koki Amare. And you can tell it really, pardon my language, pissed Go Chika off, because the bell rings and Go Chika pushes Sakurai up against the ropes. She probably slaps her right in the face.
She really
and the
does,
fact that and Sakurai's facial expressions was perfect, because she doesn't sell it. Right. And again, it's the beginning of the match. She's a champion. She's a main eventer. Obviously won the Star League at the Dream Star just a couple weeks ago. And she's a babyface, and a babyface that's over. So you want that stoic, you just slapped me in the face. And it's the beginning of the match, right? So it's just okay, this is where you want to go. And then Sakurai starts throwing the forearms. So now it's how's Chika Goto going to respond? Because now we have this champion and this new main eventer we have in this company that is now going to take you to task. So we think. The fight goes outside, and Chika Goto gets the advantage, because she sends Sakurai chair bowling right in the first few rows. So it's wow, we're seeing a more aggressive version of Chika Goto, which I really, really liked. And then they get back in the ring, got some great stuff back and forth. Mai Sakurai is finally able to slow down the onslaught of Chika Goto with that rolling front guillotine, which I really, really liked. She hits the crucifix bomb for a 2 count. Chika Goto eventually hits the choke slam that she tries for a couple times in the match, which I like how they build up the choke slam. Ultimately, though, it's the Shining Black that running up step up Yakuza kick and the STF that gets Chika Goto to tap out. I had this at 3 3/4 stars. I really like this match, and I think there's more coming down the line. Again, and we'll get into it when we talk about the Korakuen show just a little bit. I think that you're going to see quite a bit of matches between these 4 wrestlers, whether in tag, whether it's you add a 6-person in, or singles between Mirai, Mai Sakurai, Chika Goto, and Koki Amare, because there's a story to tell there that really has legs to run another 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and I'm really interested and intrigued to see where it goes. Ultimately, great performance from both wrestlers. Again, my man, this semi-main event had it at 3 3/4 stars for me.
Yeah, she's obviously fired up throughout this match, and there's a couple of times where she hits some lariats that really have the bite that so many other ones, especially during the Dream Star, didn't seem to have. Unfortunately, as fired up as she is, evidently that lack of stamina, if that's what you want to call it, was sort of began to rear its ugly head once again. And once it did, Mai Sakurai found it relatively easy to grind her down then. However, Gochika still gives a really good account of herself, kicks out of her back, suplex, manages to sort of get herself free of the first STF, but the second sees her obviously trapped in it and she taps. But yeah, it's an interesting story that they're going with Chika Goto, because she's another one where there is clearly a lot of upside. I don't think she's the finished article by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think anyone thinks that. However, you can see, and again, I'll keep talking about those two back-to-back tag matches where she was so fantastic as the babyface in peril. It was her and Nanae Takahashi against Sari and Arisa Nakajima, and Chika Goto put in a fantastic performance, being beaten to a pulp and showing that resilience. Now, if I'm honest, do I think that she's capitalized on that? No, I don't think she has. And I think that means there is that room for growth. And the fact that she's embracing that, she's embracing this storyline, she's embracing this, again, for a lack of a better phrase, this chip on her shoulder, I think is a really good way to go for her. And, just that that opening of not doing the chant with the crowd, it becomes very obvious that, oh, okay, something's very different about Chika. You know, she storms to the ring, she does a little hand gesture while she's in the ring, but other than that, it is aggression. And I think, you know, that's something that she needs. And we'll talk a little bit more about Chika in the main event of Korakuen. Main event time then, the time limit draw, 30 minutes. This was a really good match. A really, really, really good match. There's an aura around both teams. You know, when they make their entrances and they're standing in front of that curtain, there is a palpable aura. But seeing the trio of Utami, Mirai, and Victoria Yuzuki just feels different. All 6 women got the chance to further their own stories because, you know, there's stories between everyone. And even Utami and Miko Ano, who we haven't seen in singles competition, they managed to get a little bit of time. And it's like, oh my God, I want to see this. I want to see this as soon as possible. You know, if you think in the next year or so, that could potentially be a Dream Star final, absolutely yes, please. My only gripe about this main event, and it's a really good main event, aside from it looking like Shozuki might have tweaked her ankle in the early goings when she tries to do a nip up, it looks like she struggles to run on it for a bit, but it's just that it's too long. A 5-match card, you know, it was always going to force the need for one of the matches to go long. And while I agree when you look at, you know, how stacked this match is, it's this one that needed to do that. It's an excellent 20-minute match stretched to fill the full 30. And there are times when it really begins to feel like that. Like all 6 women, as I mentioned, looked really good in the exchanges. That renewed aggression of Koki and Mirai, the speed of Yuzuki and Shozuki made for some really excellent exchanges. But if you were to shave 5 to 10 minutes off of this match and add 2 or 3 to each of the tag match with Chiaki and Nagisa Nozaki versus Misamatsu and Ryo Saito, and Chika Goto and Mai Sakurai, we'd be waxing lyrical about a truly excellent main event, Matt, wouldn't we?
Rob, I completely agree with you, my friend. Not only was it a great match, but I do agree with you that this match may have went a little bit too long. Again, 30 minutes. You have your first main event coming off your fantastic Dream Star final and that fantastic tournament, your first main event, and it goes to the time limit draw. I don't think anybody in 2024 really wants to see too many time limit draws, especially in your main event. I think there could have been another way to go around this, as far as like maybe getting a winner. I agree, maybe 24, 25 minutes. It should have went, maybe give Utami a win here, or even have Victoria Yuzuki pin Natsumi Shozuki. You have that championship match coming up in 2 days, so now you can kind of play off maybe a flash fall, like a her roaring arrow that she does. That's absolutely terrific. Or maybe she counters something that Natsumi Shozuki does. You know, maybe the running knees, that violent running Samato. Maybe she does something where she counters that, and you're kind of saying, Victoria Yuzuki can counter anything that Natsumi does coming up in that championship match in Korakuen Hall. So I think that could have added to the match. Again, terrific match, 4.25 stars. Really good stuff in this match. Again, majority of this match was a little bit of a preview, a little bit of an appetizer of what we're going to see with Natsumi Shozuki and Victoria Yuzuki again in their Super Flyweight Championship match, which we'll talk about in just a few moments. Mirai and Miko Ano. I mean, these two have such great chemistry. We saw it in their tournament with the crown the first ever pure white belt champion, which obviously Miko Ano won, and she's still the champion. These two, you can go back to that well anytime. Singles match, tag match, you're right here on opposite ends of a 6-person tag match. And then Utami Hayashishita and Koki Amare. We saw them have a really, really good match, and it was basically almost a shootout for the winner to win the Dream Bracket in the Dream Star Grand Prix. These two picked up where they left off. I mean, Koki Amare is a star that's waiting, and I don't think she's going to be waiting too much longer, because you can kind of maybe, outside of Utami, put her in that top 3 or 4 with the Mirais, the Mai Sakurais, and the Miko Anos as somebody that is really ready to break out here in the Joshi scene in Japan, because she's somebody that's right there, and they're giving her all the right ingredients. She's across the ring from a super rookie like Victoria Yuzuki. She's across the ring of two of the, in the ring, across the ring from 2 of the best wrestlers in all of wrestling, and Mirai and Utami Hayashishita. And on her team is 2 other champions that would not be shocked if Koki Amare in the next 5, 6 months if she's the one to upend Miko Ano. You made mention about a minute or two ago, partner, that Miko Ano and Utami Hayashishita. That's a possibility for a big matchup or a finals in 2025 for the Dreamstar Grand Prix. I wouldn't be shocked, and we talked about it last week. Utami Hayashishita is challenging on the 3rd of January for that red belt. In my opinion, I think she's going to take it. I wouldn't be shocked that if sometime after that show, or maybe on that show, Miko Ano loses that pure white belt champion, maybe to Koki Amare, and then maybe it's something where we build Miko Ano back up, and then as we're getting to the late spring, early summer, maybe Miko Ano versus Utami Hayashishita. Maybe that's a big match to go to. Maybe that's your big match at Summer Destiny next year. Who knows? We know Rossy Ogawa likes to book months and months in advance, and that might be something that he's thinking about when he saw these two. The brief time they were in the ring, it's like, that's a main event money match. Built properly, 6, 7, 8 months for that red belt championship. I think that's something that absolutely can't miss. 4.25 stars. Again, great match. Went a little bit too long, and but I totally agree. Especially that I would have maybe shaved some time off this, and I would definitely give it to Mai Sakurai and Chika Goto, because that was a really good match that I thought would have benefited more if it went like 13, 14 minutes.
So, just sort of echoing what you've said there, do you think the booking sort of shot them in the foot here by having Bozilla in a 4-on-1 handicap match, as opposed to maybe having Myla Grace and, I don't know, Myla Grace against Komomo Minami, and then having Bozilla in another handicap match? Or if you're going to go with this, this sort of lineup, and I completely understand the thought behind the handicap match, you want to continue to make Bozilla look like this completely insurmountable force. I get that completely. My only issue is, and it's not really an issue, it's a question. Do you think, from everything you've seen of Chika Goto, do you think if you gave her 14 minutes, 15 minutes in a singles match, do you think she has got enough to fill that 14, 15 minutes? Or do you think that, the 9 minutes and 32 seconds that this match ran, do you think that's enough for her at the moment? What are your thoughts on that? Because obviously, a lot has been made of, in quotation marks, the stamina. What are your thoughts on that with Go Chika?
Rather great question, but there's only one way to find out.
That's
right?
true. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Not only that, but you're building up Mai Sakurai as, again, maybe you're number 2 or number 3 in this company. Mm-hmm. Can she do what we've seen Utami do for pretty much the entire of Utami's career? Can she take that mid-card wrestler and then have them go into deep waters, 13, 14, 15 minutes, and make them look credible? Give them a 4 to 4.5 star match. This was the perfect opportunity for it. You're not in Korakuen Hall. You're not in a big pay-per-view where if it's like, well, if it sinks, we're in trouble. If it sinks here, then it's like, okay, let's go back to the drawing board and let's try something else. This was the perfect opportunity to do it. Yeah, exactly. You could have shaved a few minutes off of the main event, or if you were really dead set on doing the TLD, just do it 25 minutes, and again, give majority of that time back to Chika Goto and Mai Sakurai, again, for 3 main reasons. Number one, if the extra time, you're able to tell longer of a story and probably a better story. And I just mentioned it too, is Chika Goto going to be able to sink or swim to be able to go that long in a singles match where she doesn't have Koki Amare or anybody else in the corner to kind of carry the load of the match? And 3, again, Mai Sakurai is somebody that clearly they have plans for, and obvious reasons, and rightfully so. Can she take somebody in the middle of the card like that and stretch them out to a really, really good match going 13, 14 minutes? I think this was the perfect opportunity for it. They didn't pull the trigger on it. I think that they should have. I think that was a missed opportunity. And going back to what you asked about Bozilla, if I was booking this card with everything kind of here, I would have had Bozilla and Myla Grace in the handicap match, because you'd have now Ishikawa on the other side. And you can do a 3-on-2 handicap match, because again, we've seen Bozilla and Myla Grace teaming up and in handicap matches before. So why not do it here? And then you have that little bit of story you're telling with now Ishikawa and Myla Grace that you can further on the storyline in match 2. So I think that it was a solid enough card, a really, really good main event. But yeah, there was a couple things to me that I think were just kind of missing that they could have taken more opportunity on.
Yeah, I do agree. I do agree. And like you said, this show felt like a house show. So, the house shows historically are where you try brand new things. If Chika Goto, I don't want to use the word fail because that's not fair. That's not the word I want to use. If Go Chika, they find that maybe 12 minutes is her limit and she goes 14 and they're like, right, okay, well, that's something we need to work on. Those trials, that repeated tries are what these house shows, all these quote unquote Wrestle Universe shows should be about. So you're ready for the Korakuen Hall shows, the Ryogoku shows, the Ota Ward City Gym show that they've got coming up in January. Overall, I don't think it matters because come Korakuen Hall in that main event, I think she was tremendous. But we'll get into that. We'll get into that now. So that was obviously night one. We move on to night two, which was the first of two Korakuen Hall shows that Marigold will be running over the Fantastic Adventure Tour. This was from Monday, the 7th of October, live on Wrestle Universe. English commentary provided by Sonny Gutierrez and Stuart Fulton, as per usual. The reported attendance inside Korakuen Hall is the 623, which does make it the lowest attendance Marigold have drawn to Korakuen Hall in the 7 times that they've run the venue. The previous lowest was 755 on night 4 of the Dream Star Grand Prix. And I noticed that there was quite a lot of discourse around the attendance, as there often is whenever there is a show. And I think a bit of it stemmed from the fact that this is the first Marigold show where we've seen them curtain off certain areas of Korakuen Hall. And I was thinking about this, as I often do, in the bath. And it's a case of a lot of people are comparing Marigold to Stardom. And there is no comparison there. Marigold are a company that have been a company since May, and Stardom have been a company since 2011 and have endured their fair share of hardships, by the way. Marigold massively overachieved with that 1,500 opening number. And again, a lot of that was based on intrigue, curiosity. And we knew that number was going to go down. They drew, I think it was 1,400. Let me just have a look. 1,450 for Julia's last match. And again, we spoke about this on the Stardom cast about how this is only the third Korakuen of the year that Stardom have drawn over 1,000 people that didn't have a certain thing attached to it, making it a quote-unquote special show. The 623 at Korakuen Hall, yes, massively under Stardom, but Stardom, in terms of Joshi, at the moment are in a league of their own. There isn't a company that touches them in terms of attendances. If you were to look at, for example, Tokyo Joshi Pro, who have just run Korakuen Hall on the 6th of October for their All Rise show, which was main evented by Meiko Satomura and Shoko Nakajima versus Miya Watanabe and Miyu Yamashita. By the way,
I was told I was told we have to watch that. By the way, partner, I was told we have to watch it, so we'll have to get to it sometime.
Watched it this morning. Fantastic match. So thank you, Thomas Bauer, and I think Colin Matthew as well. So yeah, great match, really, really good. But that drew 611 people. Okay, and then you look at the finals of the Tokyo Princess Cup, which was the 25th of August. They drew 604 people. Okay, so they are in line with other Joshi promotions. And I think the misconception is that you compare them to Stardom. No, that's not that. They don't want to be Stardom. They left Stardom. They want to do their own thing. They want to, create their own brand. And I think, obviously because we have Stardom wrestlers in there, big Stardom wrestlers, Utami, Mirai, Julia left, Mai Sakurai, Victoria Yuzuki. I feel like people are comparing them, and I feel like you're comparing apples to oranges. when Marigold have got a 5, 6, 7 year history, then maybe we can start looking at them. But at the moment, we've talked about it ad nauseum on this podcast about how Marigold at the moment are laying the groundwork, okay? Are laying the groundwork so that they've got more stars, okay? And I actually said a couple of weeks ago, I don't want to compare Marigold to Stardom because they are a different promotion. They're a completely different entity. And I know you'll have some people going, oh, yeah, but you've got the Dreamstar Grand Prix and the 5-Star Grand Prix. You've got the red belts and the white belts. Yes, they were run by the same person. They were created by the same person. Of course, there's going to be similarities. You're going to take the things that worked in one company and do them in the next company. Of course, that makes the most sense. You're not going to ignore it, even though it worked, are you? However, again, on a positive note, you compare it to other Joshi promotions, and I feel like Marigold are doing fine. There was always going to be tail off from those initial shows because a lot of the intrigue around those initial shows were like, ooh, something different. And obviously, once you've seen that initial show, the intrigue isn't there anymore. The intrigue for something new isn't there anymore. What you wanted to do during that Korakuen Hall show, where they drew 1,500 people, is grab, 100, 150 new fans from that and have them come into the shows. And I think what we're seeing is we're seeing a plateauing of crowds. And I think that will eventually go back up once we are more established, once we have developed more established stars that are on the level of Utami, which, to their credit, Marigold are doing. They're building the likes of Miko Ano, Koki Amare, Mai Sakurai, because again, as we mentioned before, there's only really Utami and then Mirai who are on that certain level. And until you've got, people that can main event these shows that aren't Utami and Mirai, I don't feel like you can really, really push yourselves in terms of attendance. So that's my little 2 cents on the attendance debate. What are your thoughts, Matt?
Wow, that was very brilliantly put, as always. But I know me and you were kind of texting back and forth yesterday about certain things with the attendance, and yeah, I totally agree. I'm just a lot of things that you said, and you know how much I cannot stand tribalism. But it's wrestling. Let's just all put it together and make it, in my opinion, what I think it is. It's pro wrestling as a whole is the greatest sport on God's green earth. It's obviously it's my favorite. Absolutely love it. Let's just all love what you. And if there's something you don't like, then don't mention it. Like, and I can't stand, and I get people all the time that'll message me why Marigold is better or why Stardom is better. And that's fine. You can like what you like, but I'm not responding to anybody's comments on social media because to me, it's just dumb. It's pointless. Like, you're not getting anywhere with your argument. If you don't like Stardom, don't tell me why you don't like Stardom. Just don't watch it. Like, clearly you're watching it. Like, and the same thing with Marigold. It goes back and forth. And I get it all the time because I'm a huge fan of AEW from the WWE fans. And I love WWE, right? And it's just like, I'm watching everything. Like, don't tell me why you like what you like and you don't like. And it's fine. If you don't like something, don't watch it. Again, I don't like country music. I'm not listening to it. You will not listen to, and Rob will tell you, we listen to Judas Priest and pretty much the entire time while we're in WrestleMania. I'm a little guy. But again, don't waste your time on talking about something that you don't like when you can have the limited time we have on this best of all possible worlds. Talk about things that you love. And Rob is absolutely right. They're not Stardom. Stardom's been running more years than Marigold's been running months. And what Marigold's been able to do these first handful of months has been really, really good. And you're right, maybe the attendance has plateaued a little bit. Maybe they need to get things a little bit heated up. But you're absolutely right. Stardom's on a complete, as far as attendance goes, again, you can like Marigold. You can think that Marigold's the best wrestling company in the world. You can think, I know I have friends of mine that they think that Tokyo Joshi Pro is the best wrestling company in the world for what they like in wrestling. And that's absolutely fine. But again, the numbers don't lie. As far as attendance goes, no Joshi wrestling company is even close to going what Stardom's doing because they have that proven track record, right? They've been running for years and years and years and years. And these last handful of years, especially this year, they're doing great numbers. And now you have that working relationship with AEW that we see a Tony Storm coming in and Anna Jay coming in, and then we see their talent, the Stardom talent on worldwide TV, which is only helping. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You can't compare anything to Stardom. But yeah, in 3-4 years, let's see where it's at. And for the occasional show here or there, maybe they might beat Stardom. But again, the fact that Stardom has that proven track record of running for how long they have and for how great this company has been in Stardom last 4 or 5 years, regardless of this attendance that we've seen. And again, these attendance numbers we've seen at the last three Korakuen shows they dropped off a little bit or plateaued, as you said. But you can't take away the effort that not only the wrestlers put in, the commentators have put in, the lighting, the stage crew. I mean, they're really putting 110% in. And eventually, when you keep knocking on that door with your effort, eventually the door is going to knock down. I would not be shocked if we see at the end of this year, beginning of next year, that they're constantly staying at an 800, right? I wouldn't be shocked, if we see them adding 150 to 200 fans in the next 6 or 7 months, where I think you're going to see maybe around the 600, 700s until now in the end of the year. And then I think you're going to see it climb back up, because then I think you're going to see the big run with Utami Hayashishita, very similar like we did in 2020 and 2021 in Stardom. You're going to see the uprising of a Koki a main event level in Miko Ano. So they're going to get there. It's going to take a little bit more time. But no, I mean, as far as these shows goes, these shows have been fantastic. And one thing I want to put on, partner, you made mention about those, a lot of these Korakuen shows when they first started off, how the high number were because of intrigue and whatnot. A lot of it has to do with the star power of Julia. You can't take that away. Now that Julia's not there are fans that are like, okay, I'll just watch her on NXT TV, or may not be attending the shows because she's not there. When this company first started, we knew Julia was going to be on the way to WWE. But from where I was standing at the time, I was like, if Julia's like, you know what, I'm going to stay here 2 or 3 years, I still would have pegged Utami as the bigger star. Not by much. I think Utami is just a little bit better of a wrestler than Julia. And that's no slight on Julia. I've said this several times before, and I'll say it again. Utami is one of the best wrestlers in the world, regardless of gender. But I always had, again, even if Julia was going to stay in Marigold for a year or two, I still would have pegged Utami as the biggest drawing star. Now I'm looking at this and it's like, okay, Utami's still doing good. She's doing phenomenal in the ring. There's no doubt about that. But now I'm looking at this, I'm like, ooh, Julia's a much bigger star than I gave her credit for, and which is saying a lot because I give Julia a lot of credit. I mean, she's absolutely fantastic. And you see the numbers that she's pulling in on her quarter hours and NXT, it just goes to show you what a massive draw that Julia is in that, and what a bigger star she's going to become in the years that she's going to be over in WWE. And here's something to think about as well, partner. Marigold has that working relationship with WWE. We know Julia loves some wrestling in Japan. We know that Julia is going to be coming back to Japan from time to time. Maybe not every month, maybe once, twice, maybe 3 times a year to do these shots to help Marigold out. How much bigger of a star do you think she's going to be at Summer Destiny next year? Or if she does the show in January, coming up on the 3rd, because you need to sell tickets for that. She's drawing more and more eyes to herself on NXT. Again, the numbers don't lie. Take a look. And then she's going to be a bigger star when she comes back, whether it's January, whether it's in the spring, whether it's in the summer. That's only going to ultimately help Marigold draw tickets. So again, you're absolutely right, my friend. You cannot compare Marigold to Stardom. As far as attendance goes, at least just not yet. And again, to everybody that is going to try to sway my opinion on Marigold or Stardom, don't stop wasting your time, because I love both these companies. We said when this company started that we were going to split the podcast up, and we're not going to compare them because we love everything that's going on with Marigold, and clearly we love everything that's going on with Stardom. But you had a lot of really good points, brother.
I think as well, what you've got to remember is, just sort of before we move on, there are so many Joshi promotions out there. Like, just off the top of my head, you've got Stardom, Marigold, TJPW, Diana, Sendai Girls, Wave, Marvelous, PPP Tokyo, Ice Ribbon, Pure J, Seedling, Oz Academy, At-Res Girls, Gato Move, or Choco Pro, I believe they've just rebranded as 2.5 Joshi. There's so many out there that there might just be a little bit of saturation in there as well, and that's not taking into account LLPWX as well. Again, we might be looking for things where there aren't things, but that, if you've got that much wrestling, there's only so much wrestling you can take in. So I do think that has something to do with it as well. Irrelevant of the attendance, this show was another really good show from Marigold. Only 6 matches on the card, but a lot of stories moving forward. And if all the matches they set up are on the next Korakuen at the 24th of October, these attendances mean nothing because they will draw big for the next Korakuen Hall show. So the results here are as follows. We open with a tag team match. Rhea Sato and Komomo Minami defeated Myla Grace and Minami Yuki. Rhea Sato submitting Minami Yuki with a high-angle Boston Crab in 10 minutes and 42 seconds. Singles match, Misa Matsui defeated Chiaki with the code red in 7 minutes and 23 seconds. Tag team match, Utami Hayashishita and Kazuna Tanaka defeated the Passion Sisters, Nanae Takahashi and Nao Ishikawa with a German suplex in 14 minutes and 10 seconds. Marigold Superfly Championship match, Natsumi Shozuki, the champion, went to a time limit draw with Victoria Yuzuki, 15 minutes. In your semi-main event, tag team action, Bozilla and Nagisa Nozaki defeated Miko Ano and Sari, with Nagisa Nozaki pinning Miko Ano with the Noir Lancer in 16 minutes and 2 seconds. And then in your main event, the Marigold Twin Star champions, Mirai Saku, Mirai and Mai Sakurai, made their second successful title defense against the Twin Towers team of Koki Amare and Chika Goto. Mirai beheading Koki Amare with a left-armed lariat in 17 minutes and 38 seconds. First things first, and this is the most important thing, we were told beforehand that if Victoria Yuzuki or Natsumi Shozuki did not make weight for the Superfly Championship, then it would just be an exhibition match as opposed to a championship match. They did air footage from this weigh-in, which I did like, I must admit. And the pre-show weigh-in saw Natsumi Shozuki weigh in at 52.45 kilograms with the belt on as well. Didn't bother taking the belt off. She was super confident. And Victoria Yuzuki weighed in at 52.85. So it was for the championship. Matt, before we go into the individual granular nature of the matches, what did you think of this show as a whole?
I thought it was great, and just to kind of piggyback off on the weigh-in, again, I'm a huge MMA fan. I'm a big fan of when they do the weigh-ins. It does break my heart when these fighters are making 6 and 7 figures when they have a championship match and they can't make weight, and then it basically screws the fans over. Just like, wait, I paid all this money to see this match, and now it's not going to be for the title because this guy couldn't make weight. But these two fantastic wrestlers, they made weight, and kudos again to the fantastic production company of Marigold showing the footage of the weigh-in to make this match even bigger and better. I thought that was really cool. Sometimes it's just a lot of little things that add up to the storytelling and to make this match even better. But I thought the show was really, really good, especially those last 3 matches. I thought there was some excellent stuff. The last actually 4 matches I had at 4 stars or above. Again, the quality of wrestling going on in Marigold is absolutely terrific. And if they keep this up with these long-term stories that they're building, and you made mention, and we're going to get into it, they built a lot of stuff up coming off this show, which I thought was smart. You're going to see these attendance numbers coming up. They got to just again, keep swinging, keep knocking down the door, and eventually you're going to be seeing, more people filling up the legendary Korakuen Hall. But no, I thought it was a really great show, especially with these last 4 matches, partner.
I think as well, it's something that I'm a big fan of at the moment in Stardom, is that there are stories all the way through the card. It's not just about the titles. And we saw that with an absolutely phenomenal match between Starlight Kid and Hazuki on the latest pay-per-view, which we're going to be talking about. But here you have got stories all the way through. It's not just for the red belt, the white belt, the twin star, the Superfly championships. You've got the story between Nanae and now Ishikawa. You've got the story of now trying to get her first title win. You have got the story between Minami Yuki and Komomo Minami, which they've just started, that apparently blew up through social media with them trying to get the win over the other one. And those storylines that are working their way through are going to help intrigue in your company. Of course they are. We've talked about the building back up of the likes of Misa Matsui. It's going to make people invested in those storylines so that when titles aren't on the line, people are still going to want to watch the product. So that's a huge plus from this show, I must admit. The fact that we are setting up so many stories moving forward. And as I mentioned, if all those title matches end up on one card, we might be talking an all-timer card for Marigold. But let's delve into the first match then, which was that tag team match, which, in my opinion, I know we focused a lot on Rhea Sato, and Rhea Sato is certainly the main focus. I thought Myla Grace was the undoubted MVP of this match. Smooth opening chain wrestling sequence with Rhea Sato, controlling the flow of the first half of the match. The confidence that she has, she's almost unrecognizable from the person we saw in that opening show. The development since the start of her tour is truly excellent, Matt, isn't it?
Yeah, 1,000%. Her footwork, her timing is just so much better. Not that it was bad before, but you can just tell that she's putting in the work, not only in front of the fans, but in the dojo as well. She's taking this Japan trip really, really serious, and it's really paying off for her. I would love to see her start to get a little bit of a push. Again, I think that they're going somewhere with Miley Grace and now Ishikawa are. And I made mention last week, I'm hoping they are, because there's a lot there. They have a really, really good story, ready-made weight whenever they're ready to go for it. But coming off that, I wouldn't mind seeing Miley Grace push up the card maybe into the super flyweight division, because I think her matches, if she had matches with Misa Matsui and obviously with Natsumi Shozuki, I think and Victoria Azuki, and that kind of style, that kind of high-speed super flyweight style, I think she would benefit really well from it, and it'd be something different because we've never seen her wrestle that style before. Are those wrestlers in that kind of a match where you're going maybe 8, 9, 10 minutes, maybe at a Korakuen Hall show, or maybe in Sendai, on the Sendai pit, something like that. But you're absolutely right. Myla Grace was terrific here. They did a great job building up Rhea Sato. We made mention in the last show because she was out for so long, and now she's able to come back, and they clearly have plans where they're going with her. But I think that everybody played their parts really well. I had it 3.25 stars, but yeah, I totally agree. Myla Grace was the MVP of this match, and I would like to see her push up the card sometime soon.
Yeah, I agree. It's a shame that Zeta Steel isn't still around, because I could see her and Zeta Steel having a Twin Star Championship match. If obviously everything goes down with the Passion Sisters and they decide that now Ishikawa needs to go her own way, a team with Myla Grace wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. And I think them going for the Twin Star Championships would not be a bad thing. Obviously, she was in the Superfly tournament. I think got eliminated by Natsumi Shozuki. Was she the one that got eliminated in KBS Hall by Shozuki? I want to say yes. Yeah, let's go with that. But again, I have no issue with that. Unfortunately, by imposing a weight limit on the title, which again I don't have an issue with, but you do alienate a lot of your roster as a 55 kilogram weight limit. There aren't many of the roster that are going to be able to get to that. Whether we have a weigh-in for every match, which I would love to see, by the way, I don't know whether they start fudging some of the numbers. I don't know. We'll see. But yes, huge props to Myla Grace, and I feel like we do need to talk about Rhea Sato's facial expressions, because I doubt there is anyone on the Marigold roster who does facials like Rhea Sato. Honestly, the way she reacts to things. There was a moment, and she's put it on Twitter, she's retweeted this, where Manami Yuki has this hammerlock guillotine choke locked in, and someone has zoomed in on her face. It is tremendous. It's fantastic. Go and check out her Twitter feed. It's all just her own face doing these poses. It's great. Really, really good. It's one of my favorite things to watch on Twitter. Misa Matsui and Chiaki, then, it was billed as a Dream Star special match. And I talked a little bit about building up Misa Matsui again. But what I like here is she seems to have gained a little bit of an edge that we didn't see from her before. We have got a newish attitude. She comes tearing out of the traps at Chiaki here. She's bringing back the old Code Red finish that she apparently used in Actress Girls. I thought this was a really interesting story because, again, this is a singles match that's low on the card with, on first glance, low stakes. But actually, when you're trying to build up a competitor, I personally think this was really, really good. And then you sort of factor in what happened post-match with Naho Yamada coming in, and she's going to be debuting soon. She used to team with Misa Matsui, so that's another team that we could potentially look at adding to the Twin Star division. Things are starting to come together for Misa Matsui, and a victory against Chiaki was much needed, considering Chiaki beat her in the Dream Star.
Not only was it much needed, but it was the way that she went about it. I mean, we know that Misa Matsui, she likes to catch you with some of these quick roll-ups, including the European clutch, but she got to win with her big finisher, the Code Red, in the middle of the ring in Korakuen Hall, and that's a statement. It's one thing to kind of just, eke one out, right? But it's another one to, get one right in the middle of the ring like she did here. This was a great match. You would basically have the hard-hitting, rule-breaking style of Chiaki versus the very smooth, high-speed style of Misa Matsui. So, and again, styles make fights. These two have two completely different styles, but very much like we saw in the Dream Star, it worked there and it worked here. And I liked how they ran this one back and they gave it the tag, Dream Star special match, because you're basically just putting a little extra sauce on this match, making it a little bit more interesting by saying, hey, we had this match that was one of the more underrated matches in the tournament, and we're going to run it back here in Korakuen Hall. So I thought this was something really interesting. I like now that we're starting to heat up Misa Matsui. Again, she's made mention she's been pretty upset with basically how she's been in the cards, where she's been placed in the cards, obviously kayfabe. And now we're putting a little bit more focus on Misa Matsui. She gets a win here, and then her old tag partner comes out and cuts a promo. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Whether they team them back up or they team up and they start to give them a push in this tag division, I'm all for it, my friend. A good, solid match. I wish it went a little bit longer, but I understand because you got to put a lot of focus on those last few matches. 3.5 stars for me, brother.
So we then moved on to a tag match that saw the Passion Sisters lose to Kazuna Tanaka and Utami. In fact, just before that, I do just want to reiterate that following Misa Matsui's victory, her former Teppen tag team partner and Marigold trainee who has just passed a protest, Naho Yamada, comes bouncing to the ring, requests that Misa be her first opponent, which Matsui is very honoured, and puts forward the idea that the next Korakuen Hall show on October 24th is the best place to do that. So apparently these two were teammates in Actress Girls. There was a faction called Teppen, which we're going to be talking about a little bit later on as well. So I imagine that they will be paired off as well after this match. It's also really interesting to see how Yamada does there, because I know Yamada has something like 50 matches under her belt in terms of Actress Girls. So it'll be interesting to see where she starts in relation to the likes of Komoma Minami, who started with literally zero experience. I know Minami Yuki, I believe, had about 5 matches in Ice Ribbon, but it's going to be interesting to see how this differs, and that's something that I'm very excited to see when we go to Korakuen. Obviously, here the big story is now Ishikawa losing again, and Nanae having enough of it. Basically saying that she's not channeling the people's energy. She's basically saying that passion is just a word to now. She doesn't feel it, and that she needs to return to the drawing board. And you can tell that this pressure is getting to now as well, because there's a moment in this match where we get the entire match is building up to Utami and Nanae, and when they come together, as Stuart Fulton says on commentary, the aura changes in the atmosphere. Changes in Korakuen Hall. But when Nanae gets the upper hand, now Ishikawa is that desperate to get her first pinfall victory. Like, she's won matches, she's never got the pinfall. She's that desperate to do it that she blind tags herself in, and Nanae has no idea that this happens. And then, obviously, the inevitable happens. Utami's able to turn the tables and then just completely batters now Ishikawa. Hugely over, by the way. We have potentially a huge star here in Now Ishikawa, by the way. Like, hugely over, big chance of Ishikawa around Korakuen Hall. Done right, she could be a really big star going forward, a really sort of solid, mid-card, reliable person who is super over with the crowd. if done correctly. However, once now agrees that actually, I do need to go back to the drawing board, she starts by saying Nanae-san, and then drops the respectful San prefix, slaps her hand away, and challenges her to a singles match at Korakuen Hall. Matt, there was a lot to unpack from this match, and what do you think about this angle with the Passion Sisters? There is Nanae did retweet someone on Twitter. Someone, I think it was just a fan, tweeted now Ishikawa basically this long thing about how, don't listen to Nanae, you're doing really, really well. Nanae just retweeted it just with one line, what do you know? I was like, yes, Nanae, that's great. Brilliant stuff. But what do you think about all this?
No, I think it's a really cool angle. And again, we're running this back at Korakuen Hall. I'm hoping that, again, at this Korakuen Hall, we have 27th of October, you said, correct, partner, the next one?
24th.
24th. So at the end of this month, we have this match on tap. We don't have official Sorry Bozilla, but I think they should do it here. And we don't have official with Nagisa Nozaki versus Miko Ano. Hopefully they do it here because you did all your angles here, right? You may as well, again, you're trying to draw more money and kind of your biggest house, right? Again, Korakuen Hall was always been home to Rossi when Stardom for the first handful of years, probably up until 2021 when they just got too big that they had to start running the bigger venues. So you started these angles here in Korakuen. Let's pay them off in Korakuen again, and let's try to fill more seats in the legendary Korakuen Hall, where the crowds are always molten hot. The fan bases, regardless if they're drawing 600 or if they're drawing 1,400, the fan bases are really, really into the wrestling at Korakuen Hall. But I'm all for it. I like that they're doing that. Eventually, Nanae Takahashi, you're absolutely right. She was one win away of winning her bracket in the Dream Star, where now Ishikawa, you're right, has not gotten a clear win. Again, you're right, she's won tag matches, but she's never gotten the pinfall or submission over anybody. Where now Nanae Takahashi's like, okay, I'm sick of this. Like, you need to upend your under the bargain. And she made the great line where it's like everybody else is passing you, where you kind of stayed exactly where you are from day one. And it's like you're not challenging that passion. Like, you need to start building yourself back up. I think having Utami and Kazuna Tanaka in this match, kind of to help them further the story, was something really interesting and really smart. Because again, Kazuna Tanaka, she's putting out some fantastic work, and Utami's Utami. And I liked how it was like Nanae is upset at now. And you could be like, well, she lost to Utami Hayashishita. Again, arguably the best wrestler in all of wrestling, regardless of gender. But at the same time, now put herself in that situation where it looked like Nanae Takahashi was handling her end of the business for the tag team, and now just got a little bit too ahead of herself, maybe a little bit too confident, maybe a little bit too cocky, tagged herself in, and then she just got bombed with her Tommy Hayashishita with the big lariats and the deadlift German for the 3 count. I like this story. I like where they're going. Nanae Takahashi, we made mention it so many of the times before, is on just a phenomenal run since the start of Marigold. Again, our MVPs in the Dream Star Grand Prix. She was doing great work in those passion injection matches over in Stardom, and is doing great work here. And we made mention of this before. I'm going to mention it again. This is the time for Nanae to put somebody over. Now Ishikawa, and again, this is like the Walker story from like 2 years ago all over again. Walker's first big win was pinning Nanae Takahashi. I think that now needs to win this match over Nanae Takahashi. There's been some matches that Nanae has won or have gone to the time limit draw where it's just like you're kind of scratching your head and like, ooh, I think the other person could have benefit getting a win over a legend that can still go, and Nanae Takahashi. In this match, Korakuen Hall coming up at the end of the month, now's got to get the win here. I mean, I just can't see it going any other way where it's not going to benefit now, because at this point, again, the law of diminishing returns, where it's just like, how many more times can Nanae beat somebody that maybe she should be putting over, regardless of how great the match is, because nobody can question the work that she's doing, and then it would help put over a star, put over now Ishikawa. This would be the time to pull the trigger. I think that if this goes to anything other than now getting a win, I think that this is a missed opportunity. But I'm really enjoying this storyline, brother. What do you think? Do you think that, I mean, you know that I'm crazy and I'm off my rocker. We've established that over the years. But do you think I'm crazy thinking that now Ishikawa, this is almost like a must win, like she has to win this match against Nanae Takahashi in Korakuen Hall?
I think eventually she needs to beat Nanae Takahashi. I feel like that's where this storyline is going. I'm just trying to think. Obviously, we've got what, just over 2 weeks till Korakuen. Is that enough build, or do we maybe go to a time limit draw here and then run it back, maybe at First Dream in Ota Ward, and then give now Ishikawa the victory on an even bigger stage where we've had time to sort of build her and build her and build her. I mean, I've already said how over she was in Korakuen Hall. I think she will inevitably get the win over Nanae and should get the win over Nanae. Will it be at Korakuen, though? I don't know. I think she puts in a tremendous performance, whatever it is. However, I'd like it to build. But that might just be me. I'd like to see another couple of months build where she almost beats Nanae. Almost.
If now keeps losing, it's just no one's gonna care. It's just like the blooms off the rose. You waited too long. You left the steak on the grill too long.
You say that.
Yeah.
Waka Tsukiyama lost 100 and something matches in a row.
And then she won. She got the pop. And really, what have they been doing with her ever since? It went too far. Really and seriously, what have they done with her since?
Well, you say that.
She's phenomenal in the ring. She's phenomenal in the ring, but I think that angle went too far, and I think they lost the momentum. And I think that's what, if now does not win, I think that basically Ross is committing the same mistake he did 2 years ago.
I mean, she did make it through to the semifinals of that year's Cinderella. Don't forget.
Yeah, but then again, what have they done after that? That was the 2 or 3 weeks afterwards. She made it to the semifinals, and we're like, oh man, this is the Cinderella story. Maybe she makes it to the finals. Maybe she wins the whole thing. She loses to Sakurai in the semifinals, and then she's back. I mean, she's gotten some wins here or there in these like random three-way matches, and again, she's fantastic in the ring. Her team with Hanako's tremendous. And I know this is the Stardom cast, but this is literally Rossi Ogawa is on the precipice of making the same mistake he did 2 years ago, and I think that's why now needs to win.
I understand. I do. And if she does win, then fantastic. I'm certainly not going to be complaining. But I think there is. I do think that because again, the Waka Tsukiyama run where she lost, she debuted in 2021 and didn't win a match until March of 2023. Like that's a long ass run to not win a single match. And to be fair, they didn't start the angle about her losing until the end of 2022. So at that point, she'd already lost, a year's worth of matches. You haven't got that depth in the Now Ishikawa story. It's certainly not that far yet. Don't forget, Marigold started in May. She has won matches. Like, Waka Tsukiyama had not won a match. Like, not just pinfalls, she had not won. So I feel like you could do something and carry on the story with Now Ishikawa. However, if you were to pull the trigger at Korakuen, that's absolutely fine as well. I don't think it's a misstep to have her not get the win at Korakuen. Because again, the better performance she puts in, the stronger performance she puts in, you're going to continue to build that groundswell of support. We saw it in Osaka, a really quiet crowd to start off with. Now Ishikawa was the first person that they were really behind in Osaka. We saw it in Korakuen, really, really behind now. Again, I might be completely wrong, but that I don't think it's I don't think it's a massive booking misstep for now to. I don't think she should lose. I think it should go to a draw, which is mad when we've just talked about how that main event shouldn't have gone to a draw. But I feel like there is legs to this story, and I do see the parallels between that and Waka completely. But this angle hasn't been going anywhere near as long as that angle is, because I do agree with you. I do think the Waka storyline went a little bit too long. I feel like they probably should, if they could have bought that match with Nanae forward 6 months, it would have been perfect. But obviously, stars didn't align and stuff like that. So,
Rob, real quick, I just want to. You made a great point, but it's a real quick counterpoint that Marigold doesn't have the depth of the roster that Stardom did 2 years ago. So it's just like you need to start pushing stars maybe a little bit sooner. And I think now is just, again, she's not going to be challenging Utami or Sari by any stretch of the imagination. But again, the more that you made mention, the crowd was really hot for it. They are ready for this. Open up the door, let it come in. You know what I mean? Again, that Stardom roster was unbelievably. You have to remember, they had Julia back then, they had Kyrie back then, they had Utami back then. That roster was loaded. That's like, we can let this Waka story cook a little bit longer, and it's not going to matter because we have all Kamatani's on top and Sherry's on top and Azumi's the high speed champion and FWC yada yada yada. Where it's just like Marigold needs they need something else. They need another little side dish that is going with their fantastic champions. That's Sari, that's Miko Ano, that's the main eventer, that's Utami. They need a little something else, and that something else very well could be now Ishikawa. Where again, this is just my opinion. And it's very rare that we disagree, but in my opinion, this is where they need to pull the trigger, because if not, people are just going to be like, oh, the heck with it. You know what I mean? We'll watch something else. You know, maybe it's at a point where it's just like, oh, we want to cheer for this person. We want them to win. We're clearly behind them. Clearly, they don't want her to win. So we're just going to go to another option because we have the other options to watch other Joshi companies. That's where it might be going. I don't know. I'm intrigued. Stay tuned and find out, I guess, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, let's move on, because I feel like this is something that we could talk about for hours and hours and hours. My only real counter to that, it's not a counter, it's just sort of, follow on, is if she wins against Nanae, gets that first victory there, what then?
Oh, really? Then Nanae, they team up again, and then you give them another big push. How much bigger is that championship match going to be in 2-3 months then? You have them beat all the other tag teams, building up to Mirai May Sakurai.
And
that's the easy answer.
Would you have Would you have them then take the belts at First Dream?
All depends on how over they are.
I mean, that's
work. One of those wait and see. 1,000% it can. Absolutely. It's right there. Absolutely. You give Naomi Ishikawa win over Nanae Takahashi again on a run of her, not as hot as Nanae is. Clean in the middle of the ring at Korakuen, and Nanae is like, okay, now you get it. Now you're up to my level. Let's go. And then they're wrestling, Miko Ano, Natsume Shirizuki. And they're wrestling Kazuna Tanaka and Vittoria Yuzuki. And then they're wrestling the Tokyo Towers. And they're having either good matches or beating them. Can you imagine like a white hot now Ishikawa and Nanae Takahashi coming off now Ishikawa's big win, taking on the heel duo of Chika and Nagisa Nozaki? That would be molten hot.
I think built right, it could be a really, really, really good match. And I think the pop will be huge, especially if Now gets the pinfall. I'm talking, obviously, First Dream and the Twin Stars match. I'm just trying to think, how long have we got? So we've got, that will be the end of October. You've got all of November, all of December. You could potentially do that, certainly. There's a lot of dates in the Winter Wonder Fight tour, or I can't remember what it's called. I just want to keep calling it Winter
Wonderland. That's we're sticking to it, buddy. You got to stay committed. We're walking into Winter Wonderland, my man. That's what we're doing.
There's a lot of dates in the Winter Wonderland tour that they could potentially build enough heat behind it. I don't want them to tell a lot of story in a short amount of time. I want them to be able to give it time to breathe, but as a booker, that's the line you need. You need to be able to walk, between letting a storyline breathe and then letting it breathe too much, which, as you mentioned, is the pitfall of the Waka Tsukiyama storyline. So, again, I think we're now to beat Nanae. It needs to lead to something. You can't just have her beat Nanae and then fall back into opening, four ways and being in handicap matches and stuff like that. If she's going to win, she's going to beat Nanae, a former, World of Stardom champion, a Joshi legend. There needs to be some ramifications. She can't just win and then be like, right, now I'm going to go into a feud with, no disrespect, Kamoma Minami. There needs to be something to follow that. Moving on then, we move on to our first championship match of the evening with Natsumi Shozuki and Victoria Yuzuki ending in a time limit draw. This is fantastic, this match. I thoroughly enjoyed this match. I loved the disparity between the youthful, energetic confidence that Yuzuki has and the contemptuous self-assurance that Shozuki had, this cold sort of contempt that she has for people. It's truly something. It really does add to her aura, and especially at the start of the match when it looks like Yuzuki may have bitten off more than she can chew, when you've got Shozuki literally binging her around the ring. She hits that ridiculous diving knees from the top rope to the outside, hits her running double knees, and she's just got that layer of savagery that makes any beatdown feel so realistic. It's the Hazuki effect, for lack of a better phrase. Yuzuki actually grows into the match as the time limit grows on, and she actually gets a couple of really close lightning fast pinfall attempts, and we now have a name for that crucifix driver. It's called the Yuzu Crush. Neither can get a definitive foothold, though. Goes to the time limit draw. Great match. Do I like that Shozuki's first title defense ended in a time limit draw? No, not particularly. I am a fan of a title reign starting confidently. And do I have an issue with Yuzuki going to a time limit draw with Shozuki? No, that's not what I have an issue with. I just wish that there had been a title defense that Shozuki had won cleanly and then had gone to the time limit draw with Victoria Yuzuki. Because at the moment now, I don't feel Shozuki looks very strong as a champion. I mean, this match is incredibly good. It highlights how phenomenally talented both women are. And it does allow me to easily overlook my own preferences in relation to the finish. But there's just something about a title reign starting with a time limit draw. Is that me, Matt, or do you agree with that?
No, unlike our previous segment, I totally 100% agree. Not only is it her first championship defense, it's the first champion in this company. So your first title defense in this company is the time limit draw. Great match, but like when it went 15 minutes, it kind of took the air out of the building. Everyone was like, oh, another time limit draw. And that might be something where they have to look at is like the time limit draw in 2024. Is it working, considering the fact of like how often we're seeing them in Marigold? Again, this was something that was very big in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, where it's just like, if it leads to something that they don't mind it, but nobody wants to see draws anymore, especially like at this rate, right? Not especially if it's not leading to something. In these tournaments, you can kind of forgive them because it leads to points, but it just seems like, again, maybe this is me, but it's just like I don't think anybody wants to see time limit draws anymore. And we don't see the match on AEW. We don't see them very rarely on Stardom, especially coming off the 5-star Grand Prix. And all their draws, they all led up to those playing matches on that phenomenal quarterfinal show. I think it's just something where it's just like, it might be too many time limit draws that it's just like, again, if you're watching a boxing match or an MMA fight and it goes the distance and it goes to a draw, no matter how great the fight or the match was, you're just like, really? Draw? Like, I want to see an outcome winning. Again, it's 2024. Maybe it might be a method. Again, who am I to tell Rossi Ogawa, the genius, how to book stuff? At the same time, maybe you need to evolve certain things, and maybe nobody wants to see the time limit draw anymore. Again, this was a great match. Victoria Yuzuki working the high speed style, the superfly style. I was like, she's going to be a champion in this division.
Mm-hmm.
Year or two, and she's going to hold that belt for a year or two because boy howdy, she was fantastic here. Maybe her best singles match I've ever seen her have. Natsumi Shozuki, she was great, but yeah, I agree considering the fact that her first title defense was off a time limit draw. I get it, you want to keep Yuzuki strong because eventually, and we'll get into it, she comes out after the main event to challenge for the tag belts, which you could have gone about another way. Again, we'll get into it. This was a great match. Even Yuzuki doing like a twisting body press off the middle of the rope. Like that was absolutely insane. It's like, okay, she's going for a dive, but she's not balancing off the post. She's balancing on the ropes. And folks, those ropes are very hard to balance on. I'm telling you, was not any easy feat. And the fact that she was able to do that with a clean dive was just absolutely perfect. Again, these two back and forth was like a 50-50 style match. Again, if this was an MMA fight and this was to go to the judge's decision, I would probably score a draw because it was 50-50. My guess, and again, hopefully they do run this back sometime soon. Again, I don't like time limit draws that don't go anywhere. But regardless, yeah, this was a really terrific match. You did have that youthful style of Yuzuki where Natsumi Shizuki was trying to slow down Yuzuki with the strikes, with the Samatos. Yeah, you hit that Samato off the post to the floor. I was like, holy jeez, like this match is absolutely insane. Terrific match, 4 stars. But to answer your question, buddy, yeah, I totally agree. Your first championship match in this defense. Now, again, not only the defense, but your first championship match in the history of this belt in this company to go to the time limit draw, being booked by a man who is known for his overuse of the time limit draws. I think that there might be time to maybe change things up a little bit, my man. You know what I mean? It's just maybe do away with the time limit draws for about a month. Again, maybe that's just me.
No, I see what he's trying to do. In that, you're wanting to paint Shozuki and Yuzuki as rivals, and completely agree that actually they're perfect in-ring foils. But isn't this the same sort of method of booking? Because obviously they went to a time limit draw in the Dreamstar Grand Prix. Isn't this the same method that we went with Mirai and Miko Ano, where we had 3 back-to-back time limit draws? And I understand that you want to sort of put them together on a pedestal, but also you are just coming off the back of the Mirai and Miko Ano stuff, which was a lot of time limit draws and worked, don't get me wrong. But I feel like you could have had a little bit of a gap here. Yuzuki is 19. She's in her first year of wrestling. I'm sure you could hold off doing this particular feud with Shozuki for another, 2 months, something like that. I can understand the way that he wants to do it and the way, one can't beat the other and they're sort of tied in tandem and things like that. But I just feel like if that was what you were going to do, if you're going to do a time limit draw, there needs to be a title defense before it. A really solid victory for Natsumi Shizuki. And she might get it with this second defense because following Yuzuki's departure from the ring, a new challenger emerges for the belt. It's a mysterious wrestler called Hummingbird, masked the many people believe to be former Actress Girls wrestler Cat Mask Calico. Looking at pictures, it's almost definitely Cat Mask Calico. I'd be amazed if it's anyone else. I know that she was in attendance at either the last Korakuen or the Korakuen before that, and I know that she was rumored to be coming into the company, so it makes sense to be her. She is also another previous member of Teppen, which, if you remember, was Misa Matsui and Yaho Yamada's stable in Actress Girls. She has had a couple of matches against Natsumi Shizuki when obviously she was part of Teppen and Natsumi Shizuki was a part of the Royal. Natsumi Shizuki accepts the challenge, and we have a third match already announced for Marigold's next Korakuen Hall show. So already a stacked card for that Korakuen. Moving on, the tag team semi-main event, Bozilla and Nagisa Nozaki and Miko Ano and Sari. A preview of 2 potential title matches here. Now, the finish here, the match itself is great, again. There was a moment, so having had Sari lawn darted into a chest by Bozilla, Miko Ano eats an assisted Noir Lancer where Bozilla just throws Nagisa Nozaki at her, which is great. She then eats an absolutely disgusting half and half suplex, followed by another Noir Lancer to pick up a completely clean victory over the pure white belt champion. And Matt, what was the reaction?
Shock.
Absolute silence. Not only could you hear a pin drop, you could hear the pin leave the hand. That is how quiet the crowd were. Now, whether that is due to the shock of seeing Miku pinned clean, which is what I think it was, or simply because the Korakuen crowd didn't realise it was the end of the match, I don't know. It was a very, very powerful moment, though, Matt.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it was the first. I think it was shock, and that's what you want because this isn't the final chapter. This is literally the first page of what we're getting with Nagisa Nozaki and Miko Ano because, again, the challenge was laid out right there. As much as I complained about the finish, of the previous match with Shozuki and Victoria Yuzuki. And again, I want to preference it was a great match. I gave it 4 stars. This match that we see some 16 minutes later had the perfect finish. Not the perfect finish, but like the perfect match of what we're going for. This is building up to Bozilla versus Sari, which we knew going in that's where we're going. I didn't know we were building up to Nagisa Nozaki versus Miko Ano, but as this match was ramping up, I was like, boy, howdy. I would love to see Miko Ano versus Nagisa Nozaki. And it's like that's where they went. I'm like, oh, okay, terrific. I agree. I think it was a shock finish and a good shock. Like, oh boy, we didn't think that the Nagisa Nozaki was going to get the win over Miko Ano. We thought maybe it'd be Bozilla to set it up, or maybe you could tell the easy story of Sari pinning Nagisa Nozaki because Sari and Miko Ano are your 2 champions. Bozilla is your #1 contender. So who's the odd person? You already had your time limit draw the match before. Who's your odd person out? You can have Sari pin Nagisa Nozaki and go there. Kind of heat Sari up because last time we saw her, Bozilla pinned her in the middle of the ring. But I like the fact that we went something different. And again, you got a shock. And again, obviously we weren't there in Korakuen Hall. My guess was it was a good shock. It was like, oh boy, like we did not see that coming. Great match, set up a lot of great stuff. Again, we knew we were getting Sari and Bozilla, which is that what we were teased. But you're right with Bozilla helping Nagisa Nozaki with that basically rocket launcher, Nora Lancer. I had a little Freedom vibes in there, my man. I without the corner. It was like, oh boy, howdy! But you're getting Bozilla tossing Nagisa Nozaki at Miko Ano, and then she hits the Cobra Clutch suplex that I literally had to rewind twice because I was like, oh boy, howdy. And Stu and Sonny did a great job selling it on commentary as well because it was a really big pop, and I was like, oh man, I got to make sure Miko Ano's A-okay. And then again, that's kind of like your big spot of the match, so you want to take it home right away, which they did with Nagisa Nozaki hitting her finisher, that sliding Yakuza kick, the Nora Lancer for the 3 count. 4.25 stars. I love this match. I loved what they set up even more with Sari and Bozilla and Nagisa Nozaki and Miko Ano. Again, I think it'd be smart if they put this on Korakuen Hall, considering the fact that they did this big angle on Korakuen Hall. You want to be able to reward the fans that were there. And at the same time, when they're leaving the arena or the next day at the water cooler, or they're talking to their friends or whoever, like, how was the show? Not only was the show great, but hey, here's what we got coming up at the end of October. We have Sari and Bozilla. We have Miko Ano, Nagisa Nozaki. We have probably a tag title match. That's where I think that they're going. And then you're literally going to be able to sell more tickets on the word of mouth. Again, from somebody that's in sales and advertising, I can tell you the best form of advertisement is word of mouth. I think that's what they need to do. I think that's where they're going. And you're absolutely right, partner. You said about an hour ago, if this is where we're going at the next Korakuen show coming up at the end of the month, this is going to be a loaded Korakuen Hall show that, in my opinion, is going to draw a lot more tickets, and it's going to be one of the best wrestling shows we've seen all year, which is something I've been saying a lot about Marigold, but especially at the last few shows from the Dream Star. But it looks like we're doing a great job building up to these big championship matches coming up at the end of the month, and I am all for it, partner.
Absolutely. Could not agree more with you. It does look then like we are getting Sari versus Bozilla. I did think it was quite funny that Sari did ask for Rossi Ogawa's permission, who looked completely startled that he was being asked, which made me laugh. And then Miku versus Nagisa Nozaki. Again, so many directions that we're going in, and that only leads to excitement. Moving on to the main event then, the Marigold Twin Star Championships match. Champions are rocking some new gear, Matt, which, as helpfully pointed out by Sonny on commentary, mirrors their respective Twin Star Championships belts. I thought that was a nice touch. And Koki also has brand new gear, apparently completely designed by herself, according to Marigold's Twitter, which leaves Chika Goto as the only member of the match with the same gear she's had before. And I think following on from her singles match against Mai Sakurai in Osaka, the fact that, again, we have no pre-match chant to the crowd, we just have a simply focused, almost angry stare towards the champions. It feels like we have a very different Chika Goto.
Yeah, maybe that was done by design, that she didn't get new design, I guess pun intended, on her gear because she was the only one. So she actually, by not standing out, she actually stood out. It's like, well, how come she doesn't have new gear? Mai Sakurai, had some Sabu vibes. One of my favorite ECW wrestlers from back in the day. Some Sabu vibes with the parachute pants. But yeah, I like how Sonny Stu did make about a comment about how the gear kind of matches their belts, which I thought was really cool. Koki Amare, I mean, we mentioned this almost every week, but especially last week. She's a star that's ready to go right there. I mean, she just has that aura about herself. And considering the fact that she has that aura in Korakuen Hall in a match that has Mirai and Mai Sakurai in it, what does that tell you about what's the big plans that have for Kokiyama, right? And I think Chika Goto is going to get there as well. I really, really do. We've seen anybody that works hard in any profession, especially in wrestling, where they can go in 5-6 months. I always make the comparison to Mina Shirakawa. And buddy, nobody knows more about Stardom in 2021 than you do, because Rob wrote a book, Living the Dream, Stardom's 5th anniversary, in review that he may or may not have been wearing a baseball jersey when he wrote it. I cannot confirm or deny that. But you know that Mina Shirakawa was an okay mid-card wrestler in 2021, where she kind of was just maybe getting by and getting some of these big matches based on something outside of her wrestling talent. Let's just leave it at that. And then 2021, she put in the work in, was a clear main eventer going into 2023, and she's a literally worldwide star. Look at Mai Sakurai. Look what she's been able to do in the last 5-6 months. Maybe the second biggest star in this company. I would not be shocked if we see Chika Goto somewhere in there, January, February, constantly putting in the work, having better matches. So I think she's somebody that can obviously get there in the next 5 or 6 months. Again, Kokiyama is right there, and Mirai Sakurai clearly are. Ultimately, this was a great match, and I loved it how the Twin Towers have to go and jump the champions. They're being aggressive. Like, they don't want any fanfare. They don't care. They're here for one reason, and one reason only, to walk out of the legendary Korakuen Hall with the tag team championships. I thought that was some really, really good stuff. Some great tag work back and forth between the two, but you get a lot of violence of the Mirai Sakurai, the clotheslines, the forearms, obviously the running boots from Mai Sakurai, where they gets the advantage. I liked how eventually when the tag team advantage switches to the challengers, they do a dueling giant swing, which that's tough to do in the middle of the ring, because you want to get your positioning right so nobody's cracking the heads going mid swing. So that's a dangerous move, but when pulled off like that in the ring, it made it for a really, really cool visual, and it got a really, really good pop. So I really like that. Eventually, though, again, the Tokyo Towers, the challengers, they hit the double boots to Mirai, and then they hit that double reverse gorilla press where Mirai takes that big face bump in the middle of the ring of Korakuen Hall. I thought that was great. Then we get a lariat. Eventually, the tag champs get the advantage back. And I like how, when you're building up towards the finish of this match, the teamwork from the tag champs. You get that running Yakuza kick and lariat sandwich from Mirai Sakurai. I thought that was great. We get the Mirror Mirai shock, which I thought was the finish, to Kokiyama for a 2 count. And then as this match is building, it looks like it's going to come down to a straight shootout with Mirai and Kokiyama. So eventually, we do see Mirai. She goes for the lariat, and I like how she has that sleeve, and it's a very bright and cool, colorful sleeve on her left arm that matches her gear. I like how she pulls at it, very much like one Stan Hansen would pull at his elbow sleeve, knowing that the lariat was coming, and then Stan Hansen, very much like Mirai, would get that ooh, the crowd would be anticipating it, and that's what happened here. She hits the one lariat, Kokiyama kicks out. She goes for the second one, and Kokiyama just destroys and flatlines Mirai with this boot. And even Sonny put up, as soon as Mirai took the bump, Sonny did a great job on commentary saying that's exactly how she pinned her a couple weeks ago in the Dreamstar Grand Prix. So now you're putting in your head, that's the move that beat her 2 weeks ago. Why can't it beat her here? Great job on Mirai kicking out at 2.99. Kokiyama goes for the boot again. She eats a huge lariat, but obviously Mirai is not done. She hits an absolutely violent lariat to put this one to bed. 4.25 stars for me. A great, great match to end a great show. My favorite match from these two shows we just reviewed, my friend. And another great, successful title defense from the tag champions. And even though Amare and Chika Goto lost, they come out of this match better than they did going in, which is ultimately what you want to do, building up your young roster. Easy for me to say.
Completely agree with every point that you've just made there. Mirai and Mai Sakurai feel like just the pinnacle of this division, not just because they are the champions, which by definition means they are the pinnacle, but I feel like they are what every team should aspire to be in Marigold. I feel like Kokiyama and Chika Goto are almost there. And I feel like that intensity that they brought and that aggression that they brought sort of quelled any ideas that they aren't in on this. They aren't in for the long haul. And what I thought was really interesting was Mirai's post-match, where she says it's up to them how they deal with this disappointment, because she's had to deal with her own fair share of disappointment in her career. And I thought that was a really interesting way of putting this. And she's clearly got more respect now, having wrestled both of them and seeing that they both want this. They want it more than anything. After this, Victoria Yuzuki and Kazuna Tanaka are out to challenge. This doesn't please Mai Sakurai, who immediately says to Yuzuki, haven't you just lost a title match? Or haven't you just failed in a title match like just over an hour ago? You can't just jump from title to title. That being said, it does look like the champions agree to the match, though no actual date is specified. I thought this was easily the best match of the two shows. I thought the Superfly Championship was a close second. We've set up so much for this upcoming Korakuen Hall show. Matt, just to give you some indication, brother, this is what we have got coming up. Potentially at this Korakuen Hall show. Sari versus Bozilla for the Crimson Red Belt. Miko Aono versus Nagisa Nozaki for the Pure White Belt. Mirai Saku versus Yuzuki and Tanaka for the Twin Star Championships. Natsumi Shozuki versus Hummingbird for the Superfly Championships. Now Ishikawa versus Nanae Takahashi, Passion Injection Match 2 Electric Boogaloo. Misa Matsui versus Naho Yamada, and that is without Utami, Koki Amare, Chika, Myla Grace, Komomo Minami, or Minami Yuki on the card at all. That is a very, very stacked Korakuen Hall lineup. And I think if you were to put I don't think all of those matches will be on Korakuen Hall, although you could very well do. If you were to put that as a Korakuen Hall show, I genuinely think you would touch 1,000 people easily.
Yeah, I think you'll get there pretty close. And maybe you don't do the tag match there just yet, just based on Mirai's promo. Maybe you do something with a 6 or an 8 person where you throw Koki Amare in there, Chika Goto, and an Utami, and maybe you have Yuzuki pin Mirai in the middle of the ring. Again, it's Korakuen Hall, and then you could kind of be like, ha, see, I got you. And then maybe at your neck, because I think they run Korakuen Hall at least once or twice a month. And then again, you build there. Maybe all these matches that you just built up on this Korakuen Hall show, maybe you don't do every single one at this next show. Maybe you just have one little building block, and then you build it to the next Korakuen show. So that's what I would do. I'd maybe do like an 8-person, like an all-star tag match that you have the Tokyo Towers on there. You have Utami Hayashishita, and I would have Victoria Yuzuki pin Mirai in the middle of the ring, which would be a great match. And then basically say, hey, next time we're in Korakuen Hall, plug the date. We challenge you for the tag belts, and then Mirai says, yeah, okay, we accept, and then maybe you do some sort of a pull apart. That's what I would do. Also, you have that storyline with Nori and Victoria Yuzuki as well. That's kind of laying in the weeds, so maybe you bring that in. They got a lot of irons in the fire, things are going on with Victoria Yuzuki, but that's what I would do. Regardless, brother, an absolutely really, really good Korakuen Hall show that we just reviewed. But what they set up is really, really important. You can't always be, throwing 100-yard bombs. Like, you kind of need to have something to build off, and that's what they did with this Korakuen show. Again, a really good Korakuen show. As great as the matches were, the intrigue that they're building up for the next show coming up here, just in about 3 weeks, is really, really tasty for me, and obviously the fans as well. So it'll be interesting to see how many triggers they pull and how many more people they can get in the stands. Because like I said before, the best form of advertisement is word of mouth. And I think everybody that left this show, again, at the water cooler talk the next day at work, or talking with their friends, or saying, hey, not only was this a great show, but here's what we have coming up at the next show. You should, hey, you guys should definitely come with me. So yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if they pull a lot of these triggers here, if they're around the 800 to 900 mark. The 1,000 mark, not sure just yet, because you're adding about 350 people from this show. But I wouldn't be shocked if it's somewhere in the 800s to 900s. I would love for them to do 1,000, 1,100, 1,200 people, because ultimately I want to see every wrestling company succeed, especially one that I'm enjoying as much as I am with Dream Star fighting Marigold.
Do you not think that the draw of the first time the Crimson Red Belt has been defended will be enough to... I think that alone, you're looking at maybe 200 people. You then put the fact that you've got 3 other title matches on there as well. I do think you'll be touching 1,000, maybe 900, 950. I think you will definitely see an increase on this one. That's for sure.
Brother, what's the date? I know you said it's the 24th. What's the... Because I know sometimes with Marigold, they always draw in a month. What day of the week is that, brother?
It's a Thursday.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious.
It's a Thursday evening, so I believe it's 6:30 Japanese time. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting because I think... Am I right in thinking it was a Monday evening, this show? So I don't know if... Because obviously I know Monday afternoon is a bit of a pain because people are at work. But that's by the by. Before we go into looking at what is going on over this weekend in Marigold, Matt, because this show, believe it or not, I thought was going to be quick, and we're already 2 hours and 5 minutes into it. Gaze at Julia time, I think, my friend.
Yeah, actually, it is not, because we're recording this on a Tuesday, and that's when NXT happened. So unfortunately, there will not be a Gaze at Julia. We will have to double up next week, my friend. And very interested to see what they're doing after Julia's loss to Roxanne Perez that we reviewed last week. So apologies, but yeah, I will double up on it for next week.
Oh, dude, I remembered as well.
I know. How about that? And I was like, yeah, again, because we're recording this on a Tuesday, because we have so much stuff coming out. So me and Rob are trying to piece and puzzle when we can record. So when he said, you want to record Tuesday? I'm like, I'll record Monday at 5 a.m., whatever time works for you, brother. But yeah, unfortunately, no Gaze at Julia, but we will double up on it on next week for your fantastic listeners of the Marigold Standard.
So obviously, we've got 3 consecutive shows for Marigold this weekend: Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Saturday, Marigold are in Kyoto at the beautiful KBS Hall. And that card is as follows: Rhea Sato versus Miko Ano, singles action. Komomo Minami versus Myla Grace. Naoya Ishikawa versus Utami Hayashishita. 3-way Natsumi Shozuki versus Victoria Yuzuki versus Misa Matsui. Pencil that one in as your match of the night. Tag team action, Twin Towers versus Nanae Takahashi and Kazuna Tanaka. And then in your main event, or at least what is penciled in to be your main event, Mirai Saku versus Chiaki and Bozilla. Matt, obviously that 3-way sounds really, really good. But what else are you looking forward to on that card?
Now Ishikawa versus Utami Hayashishita. I pretty much know who's going to win that one, but at the same time, we saw now does a great job with that pure babyface fire. And we've been mentioning this for years, not only in this this podcast hasn't been going a year, but the Stardom cast has. Utami Hayashishita does a great job in taking somebody in the middle of the card or the lower card and bringing them up to her level to make them look really, really good. And you know that's going to happen in this match because we were building for Now versus Nanae Takahashi in Korakuen Hall. So I'm really interested in that match as well. Yeah, that 3-way is going to be really good. And I like that the Tokyo Towers are getting a proper tag match to kind of build themselves up after losing their championship match in Korakuen Hall. So that sounds like it's going to be a really, really good card. And the fact that it's going to be in a great venue like the KBS Hall.
So moving on to Sunday the 13th, where Marigold are at Act City Hamamatsu. The cards as follows for that. You've got a 3-way Myla Grace versus Komomo Minami versus Chiaki. Chika Goto versus Bozilla, Misa Matsui and Rhea Sato versus Kazuna Tanaka and Victoria Yuzuki. Singles match, Mai Sakurai and Now Ishikawa, who seems to be on some sort of informal trial series, which is exciting. And then a blockbuster 6-woman tag, where you've got Utami Hayashishita, Mirai and Nanae Takahashi versus Miko Ano, Koki Amare and Natsumi Shozuki. That's another one, Matt, that could be a really explosive main event. And Chika and Naoya Ishikawa versus Mai Sakurai. That's another one that could be really, really good, couldn't it?
Yeah, again, a solid undercard, but you're absolutely right. Those last 2 matches with the 6-person tag matches, the main event, and again, Naoya Ishikawa and Mai Sakurai. Again, not only are we looking for Naoya Ishikawa to be able to build herself up for that match with Nanae Takahashi, Mai Sakurai is your new main eventer. Can she do what any great main eventer in any wrestling company can do, especially that can Utami do? I just made mention. Can she pull now Ishikawa up to make her look like that she belongs in the main event scene, which ultimately just helps out the company even more? It's going to be exciting to see. I know it's going to be a good match, but again, can Mai Sakurai really, really pull now Ishikawa up to her level? We'll find out this weekend, brother.
And then finally, the card from Shibuya Ward Center on October 14th, which I believe is going to be live on Wrestle Universe. The other two are video on demand. We open with a singles match, Kazuna Tanaka versus Nao Ishikawa. We have got a tag team match, Natsumi Shizuki and Myla Grace versus Misa Matsui and Rhea Sato. Another great match, Mirai and Mai Sakurai versus Utami Hayashishita and Victoria Yuzuki. And then in your main event, Mika Wano, Koki Yamare and Chika Goto versus Bozilla, Chiaki and Nagisa Nozaki. For me, Matt, straight away, that tag match, Mirai Saku versus Utami and Victoria Yuzuki is the one that sticks out for me.
Yeah, that one's going to be something really, really interesting and a really good one to go to. That main event is going to be an easy story to tell. You have your big bag heels versus your super fiery baby faces. And we've seen them use that formula before, and it works. So, yeah, ultimately a really solid card. But yeah, I totally agree with the Utami and Yuzuki. Again, the team that should have been Queen's Quest and Stardom. Another debate for another day, taking on the tag champs. That'll be something really, really good. And again, this could be the opportunity for Yuzuki to pin Mirai in the middle of the ring and then challenge her for the championship belt. Because I think you said it's Tanaka and Nao and probably the opener, right?
I would assume so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a great match as well because Tanaka's great and Nao's terrific. Yeah, you can have Yuzuki get the upset. And again, we're trying to, maybe do a little more shock, get some upset wins here. Have Yuzuki pin Mirai in the middle of the ring, and then have Tanaka come out right afterwards and saying, "Hey, we challenge you guys for the for the tag team championships at such a later date." Or you do something where again Utami's right there, so maybe you do something where it's just like, "Hey, we challenge you with Utami versus you two, and pick a partner for Korakuen Hall," and then you're building to the Korakuen match. A lot of really great stuff. They did a great job building things up at this Korakuen show, and it looks like these three shows this weekend are continued to build, be the building blocks for what ultimately is going to be a great, fantastic voyage leading into the Winter Wonderland, my friend.
Look at that. The transition is beautiful, my friend. So yeah, next week it will depend when the Marigold standard drops next week. Obviously, we will have the show from Shibuya, which in theory should be live because I believe it's in Tokyo. But I don't know when the show from Kyoto or the show from Act City will drop on video on demand. If it's a case of it's going to be towards the end of the week, maybe we'll record an episode that's just the Shibuya show. If it's, like it has been, a relatively quick turnaround, then we'll try and get all three watched and then return to you next week. But obviously we won't know until next week. Matt, unless there's anything else you want to talk about, my friend, I think it's about time that we wrap this bad boy up.
No, obviously we'll text off air, but I'm actually away at Comic-Con next week from Thursday until next Monday. So yeah, if we record, it'd have to be Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. So just again, we'll touch upon that later. But no, brother, I think we can hit the brain buster and call this one an episode.
Let's do it then, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. We really do appreciate all of the support for both the Stormcast and the Marigold Standard as well. You can subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast. If you think we've earned it, a 5-star review and a comment goes a massive way to helping us out, and it's totally free as well. If you want to check out our Patreon, you want all these episodes early and ad-free, you can. Patreon.com/StardomCast. We can get, like I said, all the episodes early and ad-free for as little as $1 a month, as well as an access to over 200 bonus episodes. You can find us on social media at Marigold Podcast. Don't forget to check out the website, www.thestardomcast.com. Also, Marigold stats, statistics, title runs, all that sort of thing available there as well. You can talk to me on Twitter at RealRobGoodwin. And Matt Turner, where can they find you?
Folks, questions, comments, suggestions. You want to have a general chat with me? Matt Turner OF on the Instagram and or the Twitter is the best way to get a hold of me. you want to shoot me an email, the email address to get a hold of me is thestardomcast22@gmail.com. And folks, that's going to wrap it up for another fun-filled episode of the Marigold Standard. We greatly appreciate your support. Can't do it without you. Because like I always say, it's just not my podcast. It's our podcast. Because when all together and everyone's different, everyone's special.